Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Would everyone please stand for a short prayer and a salute to our flag? Almighty God, grant us the wisdom to make those decisions that are in the best interest of all our residents. May the Heavenly Father of us all bless those who have given the ultimate sacrifice in service to our nation, and may He watch over and protect our servicemen and women now guarding the gates of freedom. Salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Terry, statement of publication.
Mayor, take notice that this regular meeting of the Mayor and Borough Council being held on this 24th day of June, 2019, has been advertised and posted in accordance with Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975.
Roll call.
Councilpersons Buchanan.
Here.
Delina.
Here.
Enriquez.
Here.
Kilpatrick.
Here.
McGill. Novak.
Here.
Council President, approval of prior minutes of the Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the following minutes be approved, subject to correction. The May 13th, 2019 regular meeting, executive session and agenda. May 28th, 2019 special meeting. June 10th, 2019 regular meeting and agenda. And the June 11th, 2019 receipt of bids for improvement to Algar Avenue and 2018 roadway improvement.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilpersons Buchanan.
Yes.
Delina.
Yes.
Enriquez.
Yes.
Kilpatrick.
Yes.
McGill. Novak.
Are there any proclamations or presentations?
No, Mayor, there are not.
Anything for executive session, Council? Okay, under old business?
Under old business, we have the public hearing on the following ordinances. Ordinance number 457-19, bond ordinance providing for the 2019 remediation of soil and groundwater at the former First Aid Squad site by in the Borough of Saraville in the County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, appropriating $310,000. Therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $294,000 bonds and notes of the borough for financing such costs thereof.
Councilman McGill?
Thank you, Mayor. I move the following public hearing be closed.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave, I didn't open it to the public. My apologies. I'm sorry. This time I'm going to open to the public for questions or comments on this ordinance. This piece of property is located down here in the Borough Hall complex. Our first aid squad used to be over in the one-story red building, and this is some, Jay, you're better off explaining what it is.
Mayor, there was an underground heating oil tank that was removed approximately 25 years ago, and there were some issues with groundwater and soil contamination. So the DEP has recommended that soil be removed and properly disposed of. So this ordinance appropriates the money to allow that to happen.
Okay. Councilman McGill?
Open to the public.
Oh, I'm sorry. Open to the public. I'm rushing. Are there any questions or comments on this ordinance? Being no questions or ordinance, I'll entertain a motion.
Thank you,
Now,
Mayor.
Councilman McGill.
Thank you very much, sir. I move the public hearing be closed, the ordinance adopted on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilpersons McGill.
Yes.
Buchanan.
Yes.
Delina.
Yes.
Enriquez.
Yes.
Kilpatrick.
Yes.
Novak.
Yes.
Next item.
Public hearing on ordinance number 452-19, an ordinance adopting the Fulton's Landing redevelopment plan pursuant to NJSA 48:12A7.
At this time, I'm going to open the public portion for questions or comments on this ordinance. Lisa, did you want to come first?
Mayor, before we begin, for this, since in fairness of the residents, I would think we should enforce the 5-minute rule today.
Well, to the best of everybody's
Okay,
ability.
I'll keep track on my phone just in case.
Well, you can, but I'm still running the meeting. All right. Jim?
Thank you, Mayor. Jim Robinson, 11 Burrell Square.
Is that on, Jim? No.
No, lights not on.
Reset your clock, Councilman. Okay, is that fine?
It's good.
All right. At the last meeting, I put a lot of concerns on the record about traffic, buffering, setback, usage, the kinds of warehouse facilities that would be there, hours of operation, circulation, contributions that the developer would have to make to the town. Those are on the record. I was told then that there weren't answers at that point. I don't think the planner is here tonight. I was told the planner would provide me email answers to my questions. That didn't happen. So I just want that on the record that that didn't happen, and I don't think the planner is here. I have only really 2 points that I want to talk about tonight. One is, whenever that hearing was, I think it was May 28th, I suggested that it didn't make sense that the driveways to this facility line up with Kimball Drive East and Kimball Drive West. I see that Councilwoman Kilpatrick has an ordinance to prohibit trucks on that. I think that's a great idea. That's a step in the right direction. It makes a lot more sense to me. I said a few weeks ago that those be moved east towards Crossman Road. I met with Mr. Mako and discussed that with him. And he said he would have no problem with that. In fact, he talked to his professionals and was going to try and do that. Now, there are wetlands considerations and mitigation, things like that, that'll have to be taken into account. But he said he would try to do that. Now, that's not a guarantee, but certainly he's going to try to do that. This ordinance would prohibit that. So I'm suggesting that that just be excised. We don't really need an engineering report or the planner's report. You just need a ballpoint pen, cross out that section in the ordinance that says that the driveways will line up opposite Kimball Drive East and Kimball Drive West. And that would also presumably eliminate those two traffic lights that are going there. And maybe if there was a way to continue this all the way to Crossman Road, that might work out better for everybody. But this ordinance would not allow that, because this ordinance dictates its driveway be across from Kimball Drive East and West. So that's my first suggestion, that that be eliminated. The other thing that the ordinance specifically prohibits is the extension of Lakeview Drive. Now, we've had a lot of discussion. There's been a lot of discussion on social media about the extension of Lakeview Drive. I think it should be done because it's been in the ordinance, it's been in the in other resolutions, it's been in the master plan for a long time. That'll be determined at the planning board level, except that this ordinance specifically precludes it. And it may or may not get done. I hope it gets done. But I think it should be taken out, the prohibition should be taken out of this ordinance, so that when the planning board and their experts, and I hope they're going to hire traffic experts, and you know, Mr. Mako posts escrow fees, I hope they will have somebody whose specialty is engineering, and that's not, and that might even be somebody from Mr. Cornell's office. But why not leave it to their discretion after a public hearing, when we know exactly what the project is, when we know exactly what the design is? Right now, it's only a concept plan, so if it is kept in this ordinance, the planning board then has no discretion. So I'm always in favor of making decisions that allow discretion down the line. So I would suggest that, and that too doesn't require an engineering report, doesn't require the planner report. You all have ballpoint pens, or some kind of pens. Those of you who are more prosperous have rolling writers probably. But anyway, it's very easy. Just excise that. Just draw a line through that.
Before you go forward, Jim, is anyone sitting up here willing to make a motion to remove that from the ordinance, those two items?
If I may, Mayor, with respect to that,
You need to pull
if
it.
I may, I have not received any comments from the attorney for the applicant on that. I haven't received any correspondence to confirm what Mr. Robinson had says. I'm not quite sure if I would recommend, matter of fact, I wouldn't recommend doing that because I have not received any confirmation of those conversations. And if in fact it is accurate, and should this be approved, there can always be an amendment if in fact the developers agreed to what Mr. Robinson is saying.
Except that we heard at the last meeting, Mr. Lair say that this is what they're going to judge, what the planning board is going to judge by, this ordinance. So this ordinance wouldn't say they can't, my suggestion wouldn't say they can't move the driveway further east. It would only say that they don't have to be across from Kimball Drive, east and west. You know, who knows, when it comes to that hearing, the planning board might, after hearing from everybody and the engineers and the professionals, might say, yeah, it should be opposite there. maybe the residents will say, well, what Councilwoman Victoria
and that-
is trying to
and
do
that-
is good enough. But this provides the option. That's all I'm suggesting.
But what I'm indicating that
It
I
gives
have.
more flexibility.
I haven't received any confirmation from Mr. Lair confirming that we are under some time constraints with respect to this vote, whether it's up or
I
down.
understand.
My suggestion is that if in fact the applicant wishes to amend or take into consideration what your conversations you had with Mr. Mako, I'm certain that we can amend.
Mr. Bacco also told me that he didn't have any conversations with Susan Gruhl, who crafted this ordinance. When I said to him, why do you have your driveways opposite the entrances to a residential zone? He said, I didn't do that. I didn't design this. I didn't write that ordinance. The borough wrote that ordinance. They did that. And he said he would have no problem moving it further east. And doing what I'm suggesting doesn't preclude that from happening later on.
Well, again,
All it says is it isn't required. That's
Again,
all.
and I understand, and I think that's a good suggestion and recommendation, and if in fact Mr. Makos agrees to that, we can certainly come back. If in fact this is voted up, we can amend the redevelopment ordinance prior to any planning board application. So, you know,
Or you could do it now.
No, I don't think he can do it now because I haven't received any confirmation.
One of the philosophies, something can be added back in. It's kind of like a recipe. You know, once you put in an ingredient, you can't really take it out. So on this, I would recommend that we take it out with the option of putting it back in later. So is there a council person who would like to make that motion?
Mayor, if we could just listen to all the residents before we do anything with the ordinance?
Oh, no, we've
That's my
done this
suggestion.
before.
Well,
Understood, but there might be contradicting
it is the
comments.
public portion, and
Right.
while I want you to do it, under Robert's rules, you really do have to wait.
We don't always, as
And I'll
you know,
remind you.
we don't always follow them,
No, we don't.
so.
You don't. I'll remind you before
Okay.
you do that. I guarantee that. And one last question. Has there been a determination as to whether or not this redevelopment plan deviates from the master plan? And that's important.
Determination by
Pardon me?
who?
By those who make determinations, by the decision makers, by
This does deviate from the master plan.
I'm sorry?
This does deviate. The master plan for 20 years has been warehouses and homes. This is all
Well, that's my
warehouses.
position. I'm a layman. I'm not on the planning board anymore. I wanted it there. I had it put in there, but what's the official position? Because it matters with respect to the vote.
My understanding is the master plan was 50 acres for light industrial, which could be warehousing, and 100 acres for residential.
And also the extension of Lakeview Drive.
So
Okay, all right.
this would
because-
indeed change the master plan.
Okay, well, it would deviate. Can't change, you can't, the council can't
Okay.
change the master plan. The master
Okay.
plan can only be changed by the planning board, but it would deviate. And statute 4055D-62 says if you approve something that deviates from the master plan, you have to put your reasons on the record. So it's important, at the time of the vote. So every member of the governing body would have to articulate their reasons. That's why it's important. Okay, thank you. I hope I didn't take more than my 5 minutes, and I very much appreciate your considering those two things. And Councilwoman, I think it's an excellent suggestion that your ordinance to prohibit the truck traffic, and I might even talk to you about another street where that ought to happen. Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else? Arthur?
Good evening, Arthur Rittenhouse, 33 Delacat Lane, Saraville, New Jersey, Main Street Townhomes. I will agree with most of what Mr. Robinson had said. Also on the ordinance that's coming up on Kimball Drive East and West, it should pertain to every cross street that's going from Main Street to the bypass, not just those two, because you're only going to divert it to the other streets. I have several things. The soil contamination. Why isn't the soil tested before we vote? The new SCI report, which just came out June 19th, has sites similar to Fulton's Landing. And what they found is that organized crime is involved in the dumping of dirt on sites that are Class B, which is what the Fulton's Landing is. And in Marlborough Township, which had a similar item, and I questioned the soil here 2 years ago about testing it, and finally found out that it's not being tested and no agency can do it. Marlborough Township hired an engineering firm, CME, and CME and the Freehold Soil Conservation District stopped all of the trucks going into that site, ordered testing, found out that there were contaminated materials on that site, and now it's part of a cleanup, and nothing else can be done to that site until that is done. So that's something I think we should do before we even take a vote on that. The borough also has a fill dirt ordinance, and that's 24-2. We should have been enforcing that. We should have had our officials go there. The answer the officials gave was that they were chased off the property and they're not allowed to go there and do anything. However, the mining law, which this is governed under, says that the borough does have the right to go on that property, to check it, and to report it to the proper authorities. This was not done. Traffic studies. Traffic studies were done by the Mako people in December of 2018, by CME in January of 2019. I filed an Oprah request requesting copies of those so that the public would be aware of what the traffic study said before you vote on this. I was turned down because the courts ruled, or at least Mr. Dupont indicated to me, that the court said that that's confidential because of the mediation. Well, how can you vote on something and the public has no idea whether that's the greatest thing in the world, the traffic study, or whether it's the worst thing in the world? We don't know, and I think it's a shame that the public cannot know what is in that. I will be appealing that to the Government Records Council of New Jersey for not giving an adequate report on an Oprah request. As far as the Fulton's Landing, this was supposed to be revised. Do we know what the changes were? Can somebody tell me what changes and what pages they were?
I believe, Mr. I don't have the exact page, but I think they were typographical errors. I don't have the exact pages.
Is the planner here?
I don't believe Mrs. Gruhl is here.
Why would the planners not be here on such an important issue that was postponed and the courts ruled we had to have it sooner?
The only thing I could guess is that they had other meetings that they also had to attend.
I guess we don't care then if the planner comes or doesn't. I think the judge should also be aware that developer Peter Mako attended the Democratic fundraiser on April 23rd, 2019. If this is not illegal, it is not ethically or morally acceptable. This only taints the judgment of the council members who were there and the members of CIRA who were there. I feel those members of both the council and CIRA should abstain or recuse themselves if they were meeting with Mr. Mako, not on a public meeting. The judge's order from June 2018 indicated that if both parties agreed, they could do more mediation. Unfortunately, Judge Miller saw it differently. It seems the attorneys and the judges do not want to listen to the residents whose quality life is affected. I did send information to Judge Miller and Judge Corradimas. I have not heard a response. I would like to recommend that the vote not be held tonight, that it be postponed, and that you don't use the excuse of there's more litigation. Unfortunately, this is important enough that we need to get this done. I would also like to add to the record pictures of Mr. Mako with the Democrats at 2 of their functions, and I want that as part of the minutes. Terry? Thank you for your time.
Ruth Ann?
Good evening, Ruth Ann Mahoney, 2 Gerard Place, Parlin. Just a couple things. Lakeview Drive, it's in the master plan, as we've all gone through. I'd like to see that go through and be finished. I think it would help. I know it's costly, could be costly, but it is part of the master plan. And after this is all done, finished, and accomplished, it would help the traffic in the town. There's other things later on, I guess, for conditions and so forth for the warehouses that should be instituted. I guess we won't get into that tonight. I don't think it's
You
appropriate.
can.
I can?
It's open public, yeah.
Such as engine braking for the trucks, that not be allowed. It's terribly noisy. Conditions at the warehousing, as in lighting, the times that they run, noise, air pollution, noise pollution, signage around town about the engine braking for the trucks, since it will affect all of us, whether you're close to them, the warehouses, or a distance away, because all the roads are going to be affected by truck traffic. That railroad use, there's rail lines there, that railroad use be included in this. Maybe it could help get some of the trucks off the roads or keep them off the roads. And since there are so many questions and things that can be eliminated from this to help, we don't have to make a decision, or you don't have to make a decision until July 12th. Could this be put off and a special meeting held once everything's in order in the ordinance?
If I might, Mayor, just remind everyone, you know, there is a lawsuit that is in place, and at this point in time, the judge wants a vote either up or down. If it goes down, then the lawsuit continues and prepare for trial in July. So today's vote is truly just to be in accordance with the court's order, whether it's up or down. And then if it goes down, then the trial on the damages aspect will continue in July. If it's approved, then this matter is forwarded to Sarah for their consideration by the applicant, and then also to the planning board for their consideration. So there is a few steps in either way.
But if a special meeting's held before July 12th, are we not still in compliance?
The judge wants to have this thing heard this evening, whether it's up or down. The judge is going to prepare for trial in July. So we have a very tight schedule. So today is June 24th. Next week's July 4th with the holidays, and thereafter we have a conference with the judge on the trial for July. So that's the need for tonight's vote, up or down, on the redevelopment plan. Some of the amendments proposed, you know, I can't get the amendments in place before the judge's order expires. So that's why we need to have a vote either up or down on this evening. But again, if it goes down, we go to trial on the damages claim. If it goes up, then you have, it goes to Sarah for their consideration on how it complies with the approved redevelopment plan. Then it goes from there to the planning board, and the planning board then goes over all the site plan applications, or the site plan, including variances, bulk variances, traffic, everything of that nature.
Just only because it makes me a little, just me, as I always say, a little uncomfortable when there's still questions, oh, it can be taken out. Will it really be taken out later on? That's my only apprehension.
And completely understood. And again, there's the applicant, just because you vote on it, if it goes up, you know, Sarah still has comments, the residents still have the opportunity to go to Sarah, and in addition, it goes to the planning board for bulk variances, any variances required, any traffic studies. I know that the residents also will be able to get a traffic study completed as the last approved application. There was no traffic study filed on behalf of the residents. So there's a couple things that the residents are still going to be able to accomplish by attending not only Sarah, but also the planning board and, you know, attending whatever planning board
I think
hearings.
planning board is a big part of this.
Agree.
Yeah. All right, I just would like to see the prohibition of the Lakeview Drive taken out, because prohibition's a big word.
Thank you, Ruth Ann. Steve?
Steve Malineski, 28 Scarlet Drive in Parling. Obviously, there's been a lot of concern and a lot of open questions over the last few meetings.
Steve, can you speak just a little louder, please? Or-
Obviously, there's been a lot of questions and unanswered questions over the last few meetings concerning this property and this Fulton's Landing. A lot of what we heard tonight is valid concerns from us as residents in the town. Scarlet Drive abuts the property. One of the things that we heard previously was the amount of truck traffic that would be there on a 7x24 basis. Now, at the last meeting, it was a lively discussion between myself and someone else, discussing about, well, it'd be unfair to restrict 7x24 while others do have 7x24 access. My understanding, and I could be wrong and somebody's got to tell me, that ShopRite is in a residential area and it has a restriction on truck traffic and time. So what makes Fulton's Landing any different to have a 7x24 access to trucks? I mean, which is going to be horrific in one way or another. So what I'd like to know is, why is the council, even with everything on the table, including this amount of truck traffic, somebody mentioned it was on a Saturday, it was 200 plus trucks. With that amount of traffic, with the amount of open questions, why isn't this being resolved before we go ahead with an approval on this resolution?
Steve, if I might add to that. So currently, the application is approved for the warehousing currently, and there's an operation of 24/7 for those warehouses that have been approved, correct?
For the ones that are approved, yeah, but they'll have
Correct.
a minimal truck traffic, let's face it.
Again, I didn't go to the planning board, so I'm not quite sure what the traffic studies reveal, but you have a warehousing that are 24/7. You know, that question arose at the last meeting regarding our ability to restrict, or place an ordinance in place regarding 24/7 and restrict it. In my discussions with the planner on that, there was a little worrisome about the inconsistency in placing that ordinance on, I guess, this property. My suggestion, if in fact it does arise, or if this does approve this evening, that restriction can be discussed at Sarah as well as the planning board. These are topics and issues that are discussed at the planning board level. They could potentially be in place, and I think that you're richly deserved in focusing your efforts on that.
Yeah, and I think that, along with what Jim Robinson had mentioned before, this is the time to amend this ordinance, not after. I mean, yes, could it be? It's possible it could. However, this is very different. This proposed warehouses, 18,800,000 square feet, is going to have certainly way more traffic. And as residents, personally, I care about the residents, not the commercial, Mr. Mako's property.
And I can understand, however, the reason why I, as the attorney, am kind of being a stick in the mud, so to speak, is because this is all that I have to present with the mayor and council to vote on. If they vote it down and then want the amendments, that's so be it. But this evening, the redevelopment plan is as is. If it goes to if it is approved, right, you have the right to go to Sarah and propose these amendments. and as well as the applicant can potentially request that the redevelopment plan be amended. But this evening, I can't allow it just because I have a judge who I have to respond to the next day or so as to what happened this evening.
Right,
Mayor-
and
Mayor,
I
may I?
appreciate that concern. However, how, hearing what you heard tonight, can this council go ahead with it? That's,
Mayor, I have a question for Mike regarding that 24 hours. We're here right now because of a court case. This ordinance is going to resolve that court case. So this is a settlement. Why can't we add the 24 hours in this as part of the agreement?
Because it's a substantial change to the redevelopment plan and would require additional notices. And I wouldn't be able to meet the court deadline that I have to respond by July 12th and/or a trial.
I understand that, but we've seen time and again where we've been disappointed by the planning board. I want to make sure that we're protected, and not that council can't go to Sarah to voice our concerns. Our time to voice our concerns are now with this ordinance.
But again, as I said, any change to the redevelopment order of that nature, of the magnitude that Mr. Robinson just suggested, would be a substantial change, and you would not be able to vote on it this evening.
On this ordinance, but if
Correct.
if this ordinance gets voted down, it reopens the negotiations or continues the negotiations for something, a
Well,
better product for our town.
Well, what could potentially happen is that the judge says, hey, listen, no more ordinances are going to be considered, let's just try the case. That's the option, and that's what the judge wants. He said, listen, if it votes down, then we'll just try the case as to the damages associated with this. And that's why we're here this evening. We're here on the redevelopment plan that's offered. And again, as I remind people, remind the mayor and council that this is not the last step for this. They still have to go to Sarah. Sarah has to consider this in terms of whether it does comply with the redevelopment. And in addition, it still has to go to planning board for consideration of compliance in the redevelopment, as well as any and all variances for that particular redevelopment plan, and can be discussed regarding what Mr. Robinson just brought up, what Mr. Malinowski just brought up, and maybe there can be the applicant request that the redevelopment plan be amended to include some of these.
What is the ramifications for, what are the ramifications for us going against the master plan?
Well, nothing. You can adopt this redevelopment plan, which is inconsistent with your master plan, subject to a reasons resolution being set forth and adopted by the mayor and council.
Okay, Dan. All right, Ms. Levinson?
Hello, my name is Karen Sissick, Levinson. I am a lifelong member of, resident of Sayreville. And this is quite
Wait a
literally,
minute. Oh, your street, Karen?
oh, I'm sorry, 5 Telegraph Lane, Main Street Townhomes. This is quite literally in my backyard. My backyard backs up to Main Street. At the last meeting, there was some residents who did mention about flooding in their basements. My husband and I spent $10,000 redoing our basement after it flooded for the 3rd time last year. It never honestly occurred to me that any of this had to do with the construction going on across the street. But it makes a lot of sense, and it's only gonna get worse when they start building. All they're doing now is driving trucks in and out and filling and digging and whatever else they're doing. I really would just like to reiterate what Mr. Robinson said earlier about having the intersections at Kimball Drive East and West, and also about amending our master plan, which has been in place for probably longer than I've been alive. As the attorney said, you can always amend things later if the property owner is amiable to that. You can also add things in. It is easier to add something in, as the mayor pointed out earlier, than it is to remove something. And my understanding, and I may be wrong, my understanding is that the planning board will look to see if his plans are in accordance with the ordinance. And if the ordinance says that it specifically prohibits connecting Lakeview Drive, then he doesn't even have to consider that, because the ordinance prohibits it. If he really does not want that, that should be what we amend later on, not including it here. And the same thing goes for the two entrances at I pull out of Kimball Drive East. I work on Main Street Extension. Okay? I literally work about 2 miles from my front door. I have sat trying to make a left at Kimball Drive East, some mornings more than 5 minutes. It'll be better now because school's out. But traffic is terrible there now. I would love to have a traffic light there so I could pull out of my development and get to work. But I understand the rationale behind not putting 3 traffic lights in about 3/10 of a mile. I understand that. That's not necessarily feasible. But I really just wanted on the public record, as part of the public hearing, that these 2 entrances and exits in the non-development of Lakeview Drive should be redlined. Don't tell me you can't redline something. That is not a major amendment to this. You cross those 2 things out and you ask the developer later. If that's a sticking point for him, that's what we amend, adding it back, not taking it out. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You know, one of the things you may or may not be aware of, the planning board, when they heard this, approved the original plan, which was 50 acres of essentially warehouses and 100 acres of residential building. The council rejected that and made it 150 acres of warehouse. So the council does have that right to do it. The recommendation from the planning board was 50 acres of light manufacturing warehousing, and the 100 acres are the 207 homes. The council changed that to the 1.8 million of warehousing.
Mayor, what year was that?
What year?
I thought
I
back in
was talking to
2007.
the planning board people to see if
I thought in 2007 the planning board rejected the houses, though.
I'm just, talk to the planning board people.
Mayor, I've been on this council. This is my 8th year. In 8 years, the council has never
Mary,
taken a vote on
I
that one way or
will
the other.
research it
Terry,
again,
you
and
can
if I'm
vote.
wrong, I'll
You remember
apologize.
anything about us taking a vote on this? Oh, thank you, Terry.
Okay.
But in 2007, the planning board did vote down the houses, if I'm correct.
Yes,
Right?
that's what the
Okay.
lawsuit was.
And that's where the lawsuit started.
Yep.
The lady in the back?
Hi, Linda Paley, 20 Gardenia Court, Park Village Development.
Linda, I'm not, you're a petite woman, so, yeah. We're either gonna get a milk crate for you to stand on,
I'll
or
sit on
better
my
mics.
toes. That's okay. Sure, thank you. Okay. Linda Paley, 20 Gardenia Court, Park Village Development. I want to know what the plans are to put some kind of a barrier. I live adjacent to what we call the pit now, and already with just the work that they're doing, the noise and the banging, and it goes through the night. I mean, I've called the police and they said there's nothing they could do about it. But now we're getting animals that are coming over. I had 2 wild turkeys standing on my lawn the other day. There was a deer in our court. Are they going to put some kind of a barrier up to prevent the animals from coming over and to buffer some of the noise?
Mayor, if I may?
Go ahead.
I'll answer this. I was looking into this as well, because I had a question about that. It was on page 10. Let me go back to my other report. They give us a second copy up here, which is a different font. So it says that there's going to maintain a 150-foot buffer. There was two of them. There was 100, you're in Park Village, it was 150 foot buffer I saw in here. No, that was
Running along-
that was the front one, it's later. Here it is. It's on page 19 of the old one. It's a 150-foot wide landscape buffer. The buffer shall be installed on an elevated berm and planted with a staggered triple row of evergreen trees, a minimum of 8 to 10 foot in height at time of planting. A mix of deciduous trees and shrubs shall be planted to supplement the berm and evergreen plantings within the buffer area. Because I was questioning that as well, because I know I used to play in the clay pits when I was younger, and that little berm, you'd walk over and be right into
Yeah, I
your
mean,
area.
they're still coming up and over, so, you know,
Yeah.
like, but the noise right now is bad, so I can't even imagine what it's going to be like.
That was one of my concerns, that we're gonna have a 150-foot buffer with trees kind of similar to what they have along Main Street.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Yes. Counselor?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Griffin. I represent the Main Street Homeowners Association. I'd like to begin with a question to Mr. DuPont. If, after today, the council wishes to make an amendment to the redevelopment plan, must it be agreed to by Mr. Mako, or can the council make those changes without Mr. Mako's agreement?
You know, I believe that, that's a good question. I haven't done the research on the land use, but and I don't have the redevelopment ordinance in front of me. But I believe that if in fact the notices are accurate and there is a legal basis in accordance with the redevelopment plan, again, I do not have the redevelopment ordinance in front of me regarding amending a redevelopment plan, but that may be accurate.
So I was going to ask for a commitment by this council to look hard and long at the traffic before a planning board application is submitted and talk about amending the redevelopment plan. Honestly, there hasn't been a study that talks about the effect of 1.8 million square feet of warehouse space upon Main Street. There was a study that said it's going to be better, whatever it is, than having houses there, but there was not a study that says what will be the effect. So I want you to know that we've done one. And even though we only had 2 weeks to do it in, we did it anyway. And unfortunately, my expert couldn't attend because he didn't have enough time. But I would like to make this available to the council.
Mr. Griffin, and I asked a question. I know that you had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Mako last Friday or Thursday. Did you have an opportunity to hand this to Mr. Mako?
No, I did not.
Okay. And did you discuss?
But I don't have a problem sharing it with him
Okay.
at all, and he
Okay.
will get one if he hasn't already. We may have sent it to him. I
Did you
just
send
took
him a
it away.
copy of this?
I'm sorry?
Did you send him a copy of this? Because I'll send a copy to Mr. Lair
You
tomorrow.
can send it to Mr. Lair.
Okay.
I have no problems or secrets from Mr. Lair.
Okay. I was just wondering, since you had met with Mr. Mako and went over some of the traffic, was this given to Mr. Mako
No,
on
it was
Friday?
not available at the time
Okay.
that I met with Mr. Mako. It may have been sent to him since, but I'm not positive.
That's
And I
fine.
don't want to
Okay.
misrepresent to the council. But
That's
I have
fine.
no problem with him having it.
Okay.
Okay? So what I'd like to do is I've taken the liberty of copying for each of you one of the pages deep into the report so that it's on top. What it shows is that today, as we sit here, Main Street is an F on an A, B, C, D, E, F failure level, the same way you grade papers in high school. That intersection at Kimball Drive East and Main Street is an F level of service right now, okay? And I've heard suggestions that maybe we should put in a traffic light, maybe we should put in 2 traffic lights, but no one has ever studied the effect of that upon Main Street. If you look to the chart that's on the right of that, you will see a 2022 build condition. That's 1.8 million square feet of warehouse space, serviced by trucks and serviced by employees. And you have the new housing development that'll come in about 3 years. And you have the theoretical National Lead site that might build or might not build. And I asked the question last time, and everybody stared at me, and nobody could tell me whether it's going to be built or not. So we put it in, just for giggles, as they say. And you'll see all the Fs in levels of service, inbound, outbound, up, down. And I would like to have an opportunity at some point to explain this with my expert to the council so that I'm not misrepresenting the findings of his report. If you look underneath that, on the left side, the 2022 build condition with no bypass. I asked last time, are we going to build a bypass? Nobody knows. But if we do build a bypass, what is the effect upon the traffic at Kimball Drive East? Nobody knows. Well, we studied it. Look at all the overall effect of having the bypass come and go all the way down where it's supposed to go, still results in a level F of service if it's signalized at Kimball Drive East. But at least most of the traffic is an E level of service. The 2022 build condition signalized at Kimball Drive East with a bypass is overall a B and C level of service morning and night. So this only works, this application for 1.8 million square feet of office space only works with a bypass. And then there's the 2022 build condition signalized partial bypass where it empties onto Kimball Drive East, which is the condition today. Your borough, as we sit here today, has approval from the DEP, which it has asked for renewal of because it expired without building it. It asked for approval to let all the bypass traffic exit and terminate at Kimball Drive East and put it onto Main Street at that point, and never proposed a signal at that intersection. You can see all the E's and the F's. That's going to dump all that traffic right at that light, right where the 1.8 million square feet of warehouse space comes out. So we've got to stop looking at the traffic here with one eye closed. There has to be a global look at what's going to happen here in a couple of years. And this is a beginning, and I would offer it to you, and I would ask for the council's commitment to take a look at the traffic in the overall and to revisit this as a total concept. Now, I have been at planning board meetings where applicants' attorneys stand up and say, well, you can't deny us just for traffic. And if that's true, and I think it might be, you're going to just keep on dumping the traffic there. And here's the real irony of the situation. I have been objecting at the Army Corps of Engineers. I have been objecting at the DEP to the bypass. And we want the bypass, and we need the bypass. But I've been objecting, and you want to know why? Because we are told that it's going to come right on through Kimball Drive East, and that will be a disaster. And all we've ever asked is that it go at least as far as Crossman so that people can use the bypass and get out at a signal light that's not in the middle of a residential district where all of the traffic that comes down that bypass would sit there in our community and run their engines and not be able to get out, except for how long do you think you'll put a traffic light in that will allow the people from Main Street and all that bypass traffic to get out onto Main Street? And if you do, where's it going to go? There's no place for it to go. And so somebody, and I'm asking that it be this council, has to look at this without one eye closed all the time. Oh, we got this traffic plan. Oh, well, the developer's going to hire an expert. And the developer's expert always somehow magically says everything's going to be all right. Now, we met with Mr. Mako. And I explained this to him in conceptual terms, even though I did not have this report ready at the time. And Mr. Monco's comment back to me was, by the way, that he doesn't want to build a 1.8 million square foot warehouse facility and not have anybody rent any of the space in it because they can't get their trucks in and they can't get their trucks out. So if this isn't going to be a total disaster for everyone, we have to stop looking at this through tiny little lenses and open it up to a major review. And Main Street does not want to be the objector. You haven't been able to get I mean the borough, has not been able to get the Army Corps of Engineers to look at its application for 3 years. The DEP lost my appeal 4 years ago. They still can't find it. This is sitting there, and it's necessary, and it's important. And you have new houses coming in, and that's going to generate AM and PM traffic at peak hours. You already know that because you did the study, and you said warehousing is better than residences. Residences will create traffic at AM and PM hours. And you have school buses that are going to take those kids to school, and they're going to slow down the traffic. And nobody's looking at this. And that's what we're asking, that as a council, that you revisit the redevelopment plan. Look, I understand now, which I did not understand before, thank God we talk a little bit, that you had...
I'm sorry to interrupt, it's been about 10 minutes.
I promise I'll try to be brief.
Okay.
It's against my nature, but I'll try to finish quickly. We were going to talk about this. And since we heard about the judge giving you an ultimatum, the town, the borough, has shut down on its residents, at least through me. I haven't been able to get thing one. And Mr. Rittenhouse tried to get a traffic study, and it's been denied to him. And we're not talking anymore. And that's really, really, really bad, because we can learn from each other. And I would like to ask this council to revisit the global issue of traffic as an amendment to the redevelopment plan, because you may need Lakeside Drive, or you may not need Lakeside Drive. I'm not making a commitment on it one way or the other. I'm not telling you what you should do, but I've heard an awful lot of people say, I think that you should put the intersection here. I think you should put the intersection there. But no traffic expert has come out and said where that should be, and that's the problem. Okay?
No, Mr. Griffin, if I could add to your, although I appreciate you being brief, I just wanted to point that I will certainly make a commitment to you to send this report that's dated June 19th, that evaluates Fulton Landings, the warehousing redevelopment plan, and national lead redevelopment to Mr. Lair and his experts. So in conjunction with your meeting, I think on the 20th or 21st, because it does raise some points. And I'm sure these, if in fact this is adopted or moves to Sarah, I'm sure that you will file this with Sarah as well as the planning board, but I will give a commitment to you this evening that first thing in the morning, I'll send that to Mr. Lair.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Steve?
Hi, Stephen Levinson, 5 Telegraph Lane. I just want to make sure I understand everything. The current ordinance that passed for Block 251 requires the connection to Lakeview. That was the one that passed a couple years ago, correct? It was a requirement, correct. Right. So we have an ordinance already on the books that requires them to do this. It's in the master plan that it's required that they do it. So why are we removing it from this one? Or why does this ordinance even affect Block 250? Why doesn't this ordinance only affect Block 249 and 251? I'm sorry, yeah, 249 and 250. Because Block 251 is already settled. They got their 600 square feet of warehouse space. We're now looking at 249 and 250 to change it from 207 homes to 1.2 million square feet of warehouse space. So why do we even include Block 250 in this ordinance And if we are, why are we taking something out that they already have to be required to do?
Go ahead, Counselor.
I can.
So what you're asking is, for the 1.2 million square feet of space, they're taking out Lakeview.
Right.
Okay. When they got approved for 207 homes, plus the 3 warehouses, it was in. Correct?
Well, yeah. Yes, well, the 600 warehouses were done a couple of years ago and it required.
But the three warehouses and the 207 homes, Lakeview was in.
Okay.
And now with 3 warehouses only, no houses, Lakeview is out. Right? That's what we're talking about here, correct?
But it also has more square footage, the warehouses.
Just bear with me, okay? You're taking a approval of homes and warehouses, and they made Lakeview Drive as part of that approval. Homes and warehouses. Now you're saying all warehousing, and the plan is stating that Lakeview Drive may not be.
Prohibited.
It's prohibited. Okay, you used the word prohibited. Is not.
That's what's in the ordinance, that's not my
Okay,
word.
just bear with me. It's not in the ordinance. I mean, Lakeview Drive is now not in the ordinance because of all.
It's not only not in the ordinance, it's prohibited in the ordinance. It's not nonverbal. It doesn't ignore, it doesn't keep the Lakeview Drive silent. It specifically says prohibited.
So prohibited, not in, I'm going to use synonyms, okay? But it's not in there because of the use of warehousing, because of the use. So because of it being all warehouses, they felt there was no longer the need to have Lakeview Drive. Trucks cannot go from that site up Lakeview Drive and out Lakeview Drive to Washington.
Why?
It's
Why?
there's turns, there's curves, it's almost impossible it would be very, very dangerous for trucks to come up an incline, okay? I want to.
Wait, everyone. Let's go one person at a time. Otherwise, we're not gonna have everybody get a chance. Go ahead, Steve.
No, I'm waiting, I was waiting for him to finish.
It's a dangerous situation to have the trucks going up those inclines or down the inclines, okay, to go to Washington using Lakeview Drive. Very dangerous. Now, I'm not going to get into
Who says it's dangerous?
We have-
Were the traffic studies were done? Because
you
I
said-
hear conflicting things about traffic studies.
That traffic, I haven't seen the traffic study that the attorney, it was just given to us just this moment, okay? And as you heard before, there was some traffic studies that were done by Mako, okay?
Which we haven't seen or which Art can't get copies of. So I have to take your word on it. So I just, right. I understand why they want it out, because they gotta pay for a portion to go over the railroad tracks. I understand that.
Just so you understand,
But
it's not
take the word
just a
prohibit-
matter of, it's not a matter of pay, though. It's not just a matter of the payment. It's a matter of, because in redevelopment, so it's who gets the benefit pays. So as an example, I don't know this yet because we haven't done any study. If Mako only gets a 20% benefit of that road, and the borough gets 80% benefit of that road, okay, the borough pays for 80% of that road. That's redevelopment. I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
So I'm not determining who's getting the benefit. I'm just telling you, if the developer gets 20% and the borough gets 80%, we pay for it. 80% of a $12 million road. Just letting you know. I'm just letting you know that's a fact.
Okay.
Okay?
You need the road.
Just to put it in perspective, a good part of that $12 million is the expansion of the underpass for the railroad. That's extraordinarily expensive.
I understand.
But that being said, so's the life of a child. So, but you know, when you look at
Children live
this,
in Lakeview,
so
in the Lakeview
if
development.
there's
Zone,
a truck
right?
prohibition on Kimball East and West, but then you go down and Bamehurst and the rest of those streets can, which are going to connect to the Main Street bypass, allow trucking, they're all residential. So you're taking a very dangerous situation and you're moving it down to the next neighborhood. And what are you going to do when you get to Sheffield? Right, and you got 48 footers going through Sheffield to connect to the Main Street bypass. It's very problematic.
Well, the bypass is actually a whole other issue. I mean, we're here voting on this ordinance. I mean, I understand to take it into a big picture.
No, but it connects to Lakeview Drive. So if Lakeview Drive is dangerous because there's a lot of kids that play there, it's strictly residential, every connecting street from Main Street to the Main Street bypass is residential.
Well, you're putting warehouses right in the middle of a residential area. I mean, so what do you expect? Everything's going to be next to residential area.
No, Steve, I'm not arguing with you. I'm essentially, I'm saying the justification for not connecting Lakeview Drive because it's dangerous, there are kids, applies to every connecting street from Main Street to Main Street bypass.
Every street in the whole town then, if you want.
Correct.
You know, unless you're on Main Street Extension or out by Journey Mill, which was where our industries were. We never had industries in the middle of town. Now you're putting industry in the middle of town, and all I'm asking you to do is build more roads because our roads suck. And this is a road that's in the master plan. It's required in the previous ordinance, and for some reason, it's being totally prohibited here. I would take the word prohibited out. Be silent on it. Redline it, be silent on it, and negotiate it in the future. But if you put prohibited in here, he's never going to want to acquiesce to it. He's never going to want to agree to it because he's not going to want to pay 20%. He's not going to want to pay, he's want to pay zero for that. His lawyer said that last time. It's $12 million. And he harped on that. It was $12 million. He doesn't want to be on the hook for any of it. And if you leave prohibited in here, you're letting him off the hook for it. And you're punishing Lower Main Street. I mean, we got 2,000 houses going into Riverton. You got 176 more units being built by Town Lake. You got 146 of the other Kaplan property. You got 2,500 more units coming into Lower Sayreville in the next X amount of years. And all those cars are going to be dumping on Lower Sayreville. And you're refusing to possibly connect a road that could help alleviate some of that traffic. It just boggles my mind. It just does boggle my mind. And you tell me it was taken out because it might be unsafe for trucks to go that way. Well, you're passing an ordinance stopping trucks from going down Kimball Drive and West. Add the other side of the railroad tracks. Let the people that work there, that drive there in cars use it. Let the people in town use it to get from one side to the other. There's other people that are going to benefit from it, not just him.
Just ask that a follow-up question, what Steve just said. Because in the redevelopment plan, it says the redeveloper shall provide shuttle service for employees to off-site locations. So that means no employees are allowed on the property? To park on the property? Page 17 on the uncolored one. No, it's
All right, so where are they going to park?
let me just, because we have two different
I know.
plans. It's the same plan, but different fonts.
Yeah, they fixed the typos.
Yeah, well, no. It's the original one with the fix.
Thank you, Steve. Is there someone on this side of the room that wanted to speak? No? Yes, sir. No, you need to come up to the mic. We need it recorded. It's the law. So if you'd state your name and the street you live on, please.
Ron Mansbach, Rodeo Court, Main Street Townhouses. I wonder if any of you kind people live in the Main Street Townhouses and have to pull out of there at 8:30 in the morning.
No, I don't.
Or go down Washington and see all the school buses coming in
Yep.
and out of the, making a left on Washington.
Yep.
Do any of you live there?
No, I don't.
No. Okay, just curious. Try to sit there at 8:30 some morning. See how many school buses go down Kimball Drive East, Kimball Drive West, all over the place. I mean, look at it before you vote on things. I mean, sit there, do your own little traffic study, see what it looks like at 8:30 in the morning, trying to pull out of Kimball Drive East. It's horrendous. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other questions or comments? Yes. Attorney, if you'd hand her the microphone.
Hi, my name is Bess Katz. I'm at 10 Burns Lane West in Main Street Townhomes, and this has been brought up several times. I've been to meetings last year as well. Once you open Kimball Drive East and West, how am I ever going to be able to sell my house? I am 2 houses away from Kimball Drive East. You bring all that traffic in. Right now, we've got four runners coming through the neighborhood. God knows where they're going to, SUVs. We've got the kids running all around the courts from playing ball to whatever. And I want to know how I'm going to be able to sell my house when I'm ready to leave once you open those roads up to traffic. It's never going to happen. I'm going to take such a huge loss.
I don't have an answer for you.
And my taxes go up every year. And I don't have kids in the school system. So I'm paying for kids that aren't even mine, which is fine. I get that's the way the world works. But I'm not going to make my money. If not, I'm going to take a hit. So think about that for the 300 and something units that exist in Main Street that we've all said you already can't make a left out. I went to go to Quick Check today, which is less than, what, half a mile? It took me 15 minutes to make that left turn. And you're going to open that up to more traffic coming in? Forget the trucks. We already said the trucks aren't going to be an issue. But once you open those roads up for other cars coming through, on top of the residents that already live there, we're never going to be able to escape our own development. And none of us are going to get our money on our house. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Other, Donna?
Hi, Donna Roberts, 369 Washington Road, Sayreville. I just wanted to ask a question I wasn't clear on. Is this one of the pilot programs also?
That I don't know. Dan?
No, there's no pilot at this point in time.
There's no pilot on this
No.
program. Okay. Are there any funds going to help any taxes helping the school systems in this?
Donna, you need to come
I'm
closer
sorry.
to the mic, dear.
Sorry. So are there any funds from taxes that will go to the school systems to help schools at all?
Yeah, of course, they'll be paying their taxes in accordance with whatever the taxing or tax collector and tax assessor assesses on them.
Okay. And since this is totally warehousing on this large property, nothing is going to our requirement for affordable housing for this project at all?
Well, they'll have a fee there'll be a development fee for that from the co-ordinances. They'll have to pay with that.
They're going to pay that?
Yes.
But that would not go to any of the units that are part of our requirement?
No, it will be part of any building that we're required to, so we'll be in our escrow.
So those are some of the things I just wanted to clear up. I was also wondering, and I was hoping that there was more discussion with the developer, as was promised at the previous meeting. That didn't occur, because I think there was an opportunity to have more of this heard and actually have action, rather than just have people talk about what their problems are here today, what the traffic is going to cause them in their life, but to actually come up with solutions rather than an up-down vote today where we stand. I think a lot more communication in advance with the community would be very helpful to alleviate some of this tension and come up with better solutions than what we have to deal with here today. And that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Donna. Are there other questions or comments on this ordinance? Are there other questions or comments? Lisa? Lisa, do you want a handheld mic? Is that easier?
No, I think I'll be okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Lisa Co-host, 8 Sider Lane in Main Street Townhome. So I want to thank all of you for the opportunity to attempt to work on this. My main goal in requesting additional time before you vote on this was to gather information, to get the facts, to get the data, so we can make appropriate decisions based on facts, not on wish lists, not on what people want, but what's feasible and what's reasonable. Unfortunately, we did not get that time, and I think I've made it clear to people why that happened. It was beyond everyone's control, the town council, this action committee, and everyone else. There's a long history of litigation, and that was cut short. So based on the fact that we were not able to get the facts, we didn't have the time to get expert opinion as to what would be viable, and quite simply the fact that we have zero leverage to negotiate anything with the developer at this point. The Action Committee has one simple request, and that is to formalize a committee of residents from the surrounding neighborhoods that are impacted by this. That would be Main Street Townhomes. I think there's 3 associations within Sheffield, Park Village, White Oaks, and a combination of the associations on by Reflection. I think there's 2, Reflection and Sarahbrook. We did discuss, Mr. Griffith and I, with Peter Mocco and his attorney, working together going forward. Mr. Mocco represented in good faith that he wants to be a good neighbor, and he wants to work with us and hear our concerns. We did get an opportunity to discuss some of the concerns that I and other residents have raised over the past 6 weeks or so at these meetings. But we want to formalize a committee of those residents. Main Street Townhomes would take the lead on that, with Bob Griffin participating as well, since we are the only association and the only neighborhood that has really been involved in this since the beginning. We have tried our best to involve other associations, and they have declined to be involved. So whatever formal request needs to be made, I've been told it has to be a policy or a committee, but we want that committee formed. We want a commitment from the developer to meet with us on a quarterly basis as soon as this is settled, to provide us progress reports, because he will be doing a lot of work that won't necessarily be before the Sarah or the planning board as well. So we want monthly meetings with him to discuss the progress. And then we also want meetings and presentations from him. And it would be a small group of about 6 people. This would not be meetings open to our community. It would be those 6 or so representatives of those neighborhoods. So he can make a presentation to us of what he'll be asking Sarah for, what he'll be asking the planning board for, so we can discuss those things in a productive environment. In an environment around the table where we can all listen to each other and come to a resolution if possible, so that we don't have to come here and make requests for things that can't be changed in this environment.
Okay, Lisa, what I would ask is that you make it an odd number, so there's no tie. And 1-year terms, it's better if they're 1-year terms.
Right, and I don't think it's not, we can just, the details of that can be discussed. If it needs to be an odd number, that's fine. I don't think this would be, it would be a voting, it's more about.
Well, it's an
participation in the-
advisory
Yeah,
board.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any objection to this? Okay, Mike, if you'd work with Dan on getting the neighborhoods down, those that will be included. Again, this is for impacted people that will be immediately impacted. The easy ones are Main Street, Sheffield Town, Park Village, but then there are a number
White
of
Oak,
residential streets that'll be impacted. So if you just draw it up reasonably.
And to add to that, I've been trying to get clarification, so that's part of my mission, was to just get some clarification so people could get the information, so all the rumors could stop about what was approved, what wasn't approved, who did what to who. That's been very difficult to gather. It's been a very long history with this. So I would like some clarification as to if you approve this redevelopment plan, what Sarah's role will be, what the planning board's role will be, what the council's role will be regarding any standards and site plan reviews, because we would like Sarah to have to work with us in the same way that Mr. Mako has agreed to work with us.
If I may, I know that you had emailed me, and I saw it late after I got out of court this afternoon, but the redevelopment plan, if it is approved, Sarah is obligated to determine if in fact that the application, whatever they file, right, is in compliance with that. If Sarah determines that's in compliance with the redevelopment plan, it will then be forwarded to the planning board, and the planning board will then review the ordinance or the site plan application. The application is entirely in accordance with the redevelopment plan. If the redevelopment plan has not covered all the variances, then our regular land use municipal law would cover, whatever variances were not spoken about in the redevelopment plan.
So,
And the other thing is you are able to, this report that Mr. Griffin just filed, I would strongly recommend that it also be filed with the Sarah if in fact it's approved this evening. I know that you all spoke to Mr. Mako and all these issues rose up. So they should also be filed with the planning board if, when and if it is, I guess, is received by the planning board.
Lisa, I can speak on behalf of the planning board that I will ask them to work side by side with you. Sarah is a separate and distinct entity by law, but they do serve the people of Sayreville, and I would assume they would also work with the impacted residents.
so that,
Can't speak for them, they would have to go back and take a vote, but I can
So-
speak for the planning board.
okay, so that ends the official recommendation of the action committee. So there is.
So we would
there's-
introduce it at the
Yeah.
next meeting.
Okay.
We would enact it at the meeting following that, and then we would start taking applications for membership.
Okay. And then just on behalf of myself only, personally, I would just like clarification on what the role of Sarah is, what their purpose is.
Again, Sarah and their role, since this lot is in a redevelopment area, or they are also, Sarah is empowered to review the site to determine if in fact that it complies with the redevelopment ordinance, if in fact it is adopted. You have the right to bring whatever objections that you have, whatever plan that they file, if it's not in accordance with the redevelopment plan, that if it's adopted tonight, you have the right to say, Sarah, look, you know what, it's too big, too small, traffic, whatever the case might be, that it has to comply with this redevelopment plan if it's adopted this evening.
Thank
That's
you.
Sarah's role.
But what's their purpose? What's Sarah's purpose?
Sarah is the Sayreville Economic Redevelopment Authority, and they're, again, in charge, I guess the ordinance was created years ago, and they are empowered to review, I'm sorry, what? 2000. To review, years ago, Sayreville said, look, we need redevelopment in our town. They then empowered this committee, the Sarah Economic Redevelopment Authority, to review all the property that is in the redevelopment area, and they have to then ensure that whatever plan, whatever property is in this area, that complies with the redevelopment plan. So when Mr. Mako applies for or makes application, they first have to go to Sarah, and then you have the right to review that application and determine if in fact that application is within the limits and the boundaries of whatever is adopted tonight, if it's adopted tonight.
Okay, so my point in asking the question and trying to get clarification on what Sarah's role is to really understand going forward how decisions are going to be made and whose best interests they're going to be taking into account. Because it's my impression, based on the development plan and based on comments that they have made publicly, that the impact to residents is not really a balancing factor for them. So I'm trying to understand when because this development plan, I've had it reviewed by experts. Okay, they just didn't have time to work with us to properly mark this up. So I don't believe in just throwing garbage after something and not doing things that are fact-based. There have been plenty of recommendations from residents all over town. They want 55 and over communities. They want medical buildings, they want commercial buildings. Those are all great ideas, but no one was able to really say, this is what's feasible, this is what's reasonable, so we're not going to go there. But this plan itself, there are plenty of other municipalities within the state of New Jersey that are under the same constraints that we are when we're trying to generate revenue, trying to move from bedroom communities to generating a taxable base from commercial plots. And they would never do this to their residents. That was the word from people from other towns that have faced the same thing. This plan is vague, and it's vague on purpose. I asked Susan Gruhl, who I spoke with briefly a couple weeks ago, as to why the plan was vague and why there weren't more specifications in there. The long and the short of it is that they don't want to tie the developer's hands. That should be a concern for everybody, that what we're doing here is we're putting forth a plan to approve Project X. We are giving him carte blanche to develop whatever he wants without basic restrictions, without basic requirements that balance the needs of this community when it comes to our safety and our quality of life. The objective of this plan states that they have to take that all into consideration. But the plan actually doesn't do that. The plan, the traffic, I know that, that's going to be a big issue for everybody, because what everyone's focused on right now is Main Street and school buses. What no one's focusing on is that when people take Main Street Extension, because everything's going to get pushed to the east. So when you get pushed to the east, nothing's coming to the west. So that satisfies everyone driving to the west, protects the kids getting on the school buses, may help, won't make things worse. Everything gets pushed to the east. So you get everything onto the Main Street Extension, because things may not be able to go up Main Street by the veterinarian and to North Ernston Road because of the overpass. So as an aside, that's another consideration, is that you ban trucks from North Ernston as well. Whether or not it's realistic they'll be able to get through that overpass, because North Ernston shouldn't be subject to trucks as well, because that will increase traffic that way. But if you continue going straight to the Main Street Extension, you've got a traffic light at Main Street, you've got the next traffic light by the railroad, God forbid trains are coming through, and then you've got a traffic light down by whatever is going on by that Bass Pro Shop, okay? There's like 4 or 5 different traffic lights. I took the exit off of the Garden State Parkway once at like 1 in the morning, and I just sat there and sat there and sat there. So now I know, by the advice of some police, when I was going to law school in Newark, they told me when you come to a red light, you stop at the light, you look both ways, and you go. No cop in Newark is ever going to pull you over for being safe that way. So I said,
They will in Sayreville.
Well, in Sayreville, at 1 in the morning, I decided to stop sitting there, and I kept going. So you're going to have trucks that are being pushed to the east, which everyone appreciates. They're going to get to that traffic light, and they're all going to try and get on Route 9 or Route 35. Do you know what the congestion is going to be in that area? So trucks won't be able to get through to Route 9, they won't be able to get to the Turnpike, and they won't be able to get to 287. So it goes back to what Mr. Griffith said, is that you have to take this all into consideration. So now you add in the River Road development, you add in the development that's happening at Town Lake, you add in the development that's happening at Quick Check, the homes that are going up at the National Lead Site, the homes that are going up on North Ernston and Maine, all part of the COA. And now you add Riverton. And no one can tell us what's happening with the bypass. Where is this traffic going to go? So the issue with the bypass is that no one can answer the question as to when it will be complete. So we appreciate that you're going to ban truck traffic from Kimball Drives. We also discussed at the last meeting not opening up Kimball Drives until the bypass is complete. So we would like to discuss amending that ordinance to confirm that. But the definition of complete has to be considered. The definition of complete for me and for residents in this town should be that the bypass goes from Sayreville Boulevard to Chevalier. That's complete. And when it's that complete, then we consider removing those barriers and opening up Kimball Drives.
but not before. But complete also includes Crossman Boulevard. You can't open it up, even if it goes to Chevalier, and have the traffic come through Kimball Drive. It has to go to Crossman's. So the definition of a complete bypass for opening up Kimball Drive has to be Crossman's Road from that north side is a thoroughfare to Main Street. That begs the question, who owns the property for Crossman's Road North? Can anyone tell me that?
You know, Jay?
Crossman Road North is privately owned by an adjacent property owner.
By who?
It's the owner of the adjacent property. It's not a dedicated right-of-way.
By the steel mill
Correct, by
or
the steel mill.
it's owned by the steel mill?
No, it's owned by the developer who owns the property north of the steel mill.
Is that Mako? Or his
I
companies?
believe it's his company, yes.
Okay.
So that's something that needs to be considered as well. Because, I'm sorry, guys, come on. So when Bob Griffith and I met with Mr. Mako, the first thing he said was, bypass is never going to be built. Bypass is never going to be built. It's a pipe dream, it's a pipe dream, it's never going to be built. And I was curious as to why we were focusing on this. And when we were talking about traffic, he's like, oh, well, you might develop things here, you might develop things here. You don't take that all into consideration until it's actually built. And the bypass is never going to go through. Why does he think the bypass is never going to go through? Because he owns a crucial part of the property that the town would have to buy from him. But the town can't buy it from him because it's contaminated. So he would have to clean it up before he sold it to us. So Crossman's will never be part of the bypass.
This gets worse and worse.
Ergo, Kimball Drive should never be opened up to traffic. Okay? That's something we should all agree on. And, so that's one thing. I've said it before and I mean it. I do appreciate where you guys are at. I do appreciate the fact that looking back for however long this litigation has been going on doesn't do anybody any good, because you can't point the finger at people that were here a long time ago, okay? There are a lot of people that have been involved in this. A lot of decisions were made for the right reasons, but they've all gotten us to this point. And we are at the tipping point. The schools are at the tipping point. Approving those 207 homes is not going to push those schools over the edge when you have 500 affordable homes going up on Main Street. And it doesn't matter whether you were thinking about doing it or it's been forced upon you by the courts. They're going up, so you're going to have to make accommodations for those students. This is something also that I didn't get an answer on, that I've asked some folks. The ordinance, 45119 for the River Road Development Plan, on page 17, permits a residential district. It says on 52 acres of property in the map that there will be homes developed on there for multifamily residents, single and two-family residents, and townhomes. And I'm not 6 dwelling units per gross acre. So I'm not able to get an answer from anyone as to if we are so against more residential units going up, unless we are court ordered to do so, why 52 acres of residential units was slipped into the River Road plan and approved with zero objection from anyone in this community. They're coming down on us and claiming that we're crying NIMBY, not in my backyard. God, that's not what we're doing here. We're raising significant challenges for everyone in this area. And then yet we're gonna build 52 acres of residential units. And no one can answer that.
Part of the co-op. That is part of the co-op. That's part of the co-op. That's got nothing to do with it.
Well, they're not designated as COA homes.
It was part of the co-agreement.
Intervenor.
Interveners. That was
Because of
part.
this-
We objected to that, to say that
So you have to build 52 acre, you have to allow non-COA residential units in order to fill your COA obligation.
There's 100% affordable going up on
Right.
that as well. That is part of that, we cut that down by almost 30%.
So your COA obligation is the 100 affordable units, the 100 senior units, and because
Oh, it's a
you're
whole
doing-
lot more than that. It's a
No, but
whole
in
lot
this,
more.
in River Road, so because you're forced to build 100 affordable homes and then 100 senior housing, you're now
No,
also being
you're
forced
not.
to build homes on
No.
52 acres that the town doesn't need.
You're totally off on what you're stating in reference
Mm-hmm.
to what our COA requirements are. We're talking about 100% affordable housing, which was 88 units. That particular
Mm-hmm.
site had to be subdivided. This was something that went on for over 2 years here.
Okay.
It was part of the litigation. There were 2 articles that just recently came out.
Mm-hmm.
To turn around and relitigate this here in front of you guys again, I can gladly do it, but we would have to close the discussion on this first,
Mm-hmm.
because what you're referencing has nothing to do with the ordinance that the public is here to speak on now.
Well, the
So it
reason
is
I'm-
separate.
The reason I'm referencing the residential units, because as it reads on this page, on page 17 of the River Road plan, or redevelopment plan, no, it's something different, is that there's such an objection to these 207 homes, but yet residential units that in this plan don't seem to be tied to being designated as affordable.
But
So
they are. You
Okay.
have to stop saying that because you're misrepresenting. And again, I'm going to ask the attorney if we can even speak on behalf of that. She's talking about the COA litigation, a totally separate ordinance, when we are supposed to be talking about the Fulton Lansing's ordinance. But for you to say that those units have nothing to do with what the judge required us to do with affordable housing is 100% untrue. I really think that you're mixing things up, and I would caution you in what you're putting out there to the public, because it is 100% inaccurate. So we can have a
So I'm
discussion
not
on
putting anything
COA.
out in the public. This says affordable housing district, 100 units.
Yes, but you're not understanding what that is
Right, so I'm
in
asking for an
conjunction with
explanation.
that. And I'm asking my attorney if we should continue that conversation, because it's not part of this ordinance that we're supposed to be discussing. Yeah, we can.
That's fine, I get it. So my point is, there's plenty of development going on, regardless of whether it's required by law or not. These 207 homes are not going to make that big of a difference. They're not putting this borough over the edge, okay? Because you're already over the edge. You're at the tipping point, okay? With all the development that's happening in Town Lake, and all the development that's happening in Lemire, and all this COA obligation coming in, plus Riverton, the $18 million that Riverton is paying is a drop in a bucket for what it's going to cost this town to dig itself out of this school mess that they have on their hands. And I think it's disingenuous of this town to put this burden on us. Off the record, so many people think it's ridiculous that we're putting this industrial complex in the middle of residential neighborhoods, okay? There's no reason why our public safety and our quality of life should be jeopardized for all this, especially in light of that. So if we're supposed to take the hit for the town because of the school system and because of this litigation, and this is the easiest thing to settle, then you know what? We have to swallow that. We have to understand that we have to be a team player too, okay? We need to get out of this litigation mess. We don't need them imposing damages on us. We don't need, the builder getting a builder judgment to build whatever he wants. But then you have to do us a favor and put forth a redevelopment plan that actually protects us and puts reasonable restrictions in place and standards in place. You have given the developer a carte blanche to do whatever he wants, and there's no one that's going to hold him accountable for that. No one. Because based on what's been explained to me, as long as he complies with a vague development plan, Sierra has to approve it, and the planning board has to approve it, and then the council has to approve it. Otherwise, we're right back to where we are with the litigation. So it's my understanding that this was a document put forth by Sierra, and not a negotiated document by the town who's in litigation with the developer. So we've been told the developer didn't contribute to this plan. So this is a plan that's being put forth that wasn't negotiated. And the plan has to be something not necessarily that Mr. Maka would agree to. It has to be a plan that the judge would find reasonable between the parties.
So we may have made our mistakes, and we may have been held accountable in 2017 for some zoning violations and have had to pay $1 million in lawyers' fees and things of that nature. That's serious, okay? But that doesn't mean we just give him whatever he wants without protecting us. I find that to be unconscionable. There are simple things that can be requested. Do you know that in the winter, you can get about 20 trucks lining up, idling for hours, diesel fuel in the middle of a residential neighborhood? So we're not going to put those protections in place now? You know, you can have operational activity on the border of Park Village and White Oaks. Why not require that activity on the other side by Crossman's where it was intended? Why not put those reasonable restrictions in the plan now? 24/7. We've already mentioned that that's what happened with ShopRite. Now, people do have to be reasonable and understand we can't push our hand, but you guys aren't considering anything that would be beneficial to us. No one's talking about trying to restrict the type of operations that can go on there. And the foundation of this plan, I can't stress it enough. No one is parking at a park and ride and being shuttled to these jobs. That's not happening. Where are they going to park on the park and ride? The park and ride, the cost will be borne by the county? That's still our money. He's not going to build a park and ride for people. And why do we need a park and ride? To shuttle people in if these are supposed to be jobs for people from Sayreville. So if they're jobs from people from Sayreville, we're going to get the traffic. If they're jobs for people that have to be shuttled in, we should be questioning what type of labor we're going to shuttle in. What kind of jobs are these that people won't be able to drive to work? There's no public transportation to come to Sayreville. We don't need all of this. You know, you have a difficult decision to make, and you have to put us first. You have to put your residents first. I can't stress that enough. It is unconscionable to approve a plan that gives someone carte blanche to do what he wants and has no accountability. The only people he's going to be accountable for are the people that he works with to get stuff done here. Come on. Are those people going to recuse themselves from this redevelopment plan? That's something to consider. If they agree to recruit the people on the planning on Sarah that have been working with him on this stuff, if they agree to recuse themselves from considerations of what he puts forth, then maybe we have something.
Thank you, Lisa. Are there any other questions or comments on this ordinance? Are there any other questions or comments on this ordinance?
Mayor, I move the public portion be closed.
Second.
Roll call.
Correct.
All in favor?
Councilpersons Buchanan?
Yes.
Delina?
Yes.
Enriquez?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
McGill?
Yes.
Novak?
Yes.
Mayor, I have a couple questions before we proceed with the vote. The residents brought up a lot of great points. I still believe that now is the time to put anything in an ordinance. I believe that it's incumbent on us to guide the planning board and Sarah with what we want for our residents. I like the idea on the restricting the air braking. I still am firm believer of the restricting 24-hour access to it. I'd also like to see the truck bays being opposite sides of the houses so that the trucks aren't going in and out of where the side of the houses are. One question I had was the original plan that was, and I'm just looking at my notes I put down here. The original plan that was put forth regarding the 207 homes discusses lots 252 and 253, but there's still nothing in our plan for that. Where are those lots? Are those still going to be residential, or is that going to be eliminated by this agreement?
That was the typo.
That was a typo? Thank you. All right. Okay. I stand corrected. That was my question. I didn't look at the new one on here. Now, on page 12, it says the area shall be developed in accordance with this plan. So again, we need to make sure that we're out front on everything before it gets to those boards. And again, I have concerns. Are there going to be employee parking on the property or not? According to this, it says they're not. They're going to be shuttled in. If they are, then I think that we should probably have Lakeview open for those vehicles. And if there is ever an accident on Main Street, it gives an option of everyone leaving there just for temporary purposes. Might not be everyday truck traffic, but if there's an emergency, we have a way to get out of there. And also it discusses the green standards. I believe that we should put in there that they shall be required to put green standards. Not just should be used, we said shall be used, so that we're becoming more green of a town, especially with all the diesel fuel that's going to be in there. At least the buildings will be green. Those are my comments.
I have questions as well. Jay, with the dirt, before they break ground on building any buildings, you guys would test the soil, correct, to make sure that it's not contaminated?
I think once this goes before the planning board, the issue with the environmental conditions of the property will be addressed. So it's not even that far. When it goes before the planning board, all those items will have to be looked at.
But nothing will be able to be built unless the soil is not contaminated, correct?
It's going to have to be demonstrated to the planning board that the site is clean.
Okay, thank you. Also, from my understanding of what Susan Gruhl said last time about Lakeview Drive, I think she said that it didn't say must, I think it said shall, or it was, no, not in this, I'm talking about in the master plan. It said that Lakeview Drive was, it wasn't, it could be, it wasn't any words in there saying that we had to, right, if I'm correct? Am I wrong on that? No? Okay. I just wanted to make sure that's it.
Does anyone else have
Any other questions or comments?
anybody have any comments on the things I'm looking to add to the ordinance?
Is there anything, excuse me, may I, Mayor? Is there anything, some of the things that Danny requested, is there anything in this that prohibits those things from being done?
They can be done, they can't be done this evening because it'd be a substantial amendment, but they can certainly be discussed and, I guess, held at Sarah and also planning board
I'm
such
just
as.
saying, there's nothing that specifically addresses these things in there, so it
No.
would be something that would be addressed in the future.
Correct.
Because, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Not being allowed to use trucks 24/7 at ShopRite is a real shock to me, because I've seen trucks unloading and loading at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I don't know what what time they're not allowed to, but they're doing it pretty much all of the night. So,
But again, we're at the point now where the plan says, Sarah and the planning board has to abide by this plan right here today.
Well, we can
We
also
could possibly go back to it, but that's going to be with agreement from the developer.
but it doesn't address any of those things, so it wouldn't be going against it
Right,
if
if
we
it's
did
silent,
something
though.
later.
If it's silent, then there's no prohibition because we have nothing in any other ordinance. And they have to abide by this plan.
Excuse me, the public portion's over. My concern is if we restrict it to certain hours of general use, is that going to cause more of a traffic problem? Whereas if some of the trucks were going later in the evening, I mean, I would be more in consideration of some kind of managed coming and goings, rather than say you only can be done during this time, because it'd be forcing all of the truck traffic, probably during the worst time of the day, onto Main Street. I also have one other question. I was concerned with the word prohibited. Does it need to be at this time? Something like that. Would taking that word prohibited out of there be a substantial change?
In my opinion, it would be a substantial change. So you either have to vote yes or vote no.
And I talked at great length with CME, Jay, about Crossman. I thought that all of the trucks should be coming and going from Crossman. And the way he explained, but I wasn't really against the lights, only because I come out Park Village, and Ever since that light was put in, I've had many, many complaints from the people at Main Street that now we can get out, but they still can't get out. So the thought of forcing that developer to add those lights at no cost to us, because the county isn't going to pay for another light on Main Street where they paid 2/3 of the one that we put in on Park Village, and we paid 1/3. The county isn't going to do that anymore. You know, they're really kind of done with the money. So having the developer do it at their cost, to say that not putting in the road, I think paying the full cost of the lights is probably a substantial, and I don't want to take that out, because I think that the town deserves that, you know, that they pay that entirely. Whereas the road, I don't know if I want to prohibit it, but I do understand that because Conrail has prohibited any more at-grade crossings. So this is not a simple road. It's going to have to be an overpass, or it's going to be a tunnel. In this case, 5 years ago, Jay, we got an estimate of $12 million, or was it longer than that?
Approximately, yeah, 12 minutes.
5 years ago, we got an estimate of $12 million just to do the tunnel, not to complete the road, just to do the tunnel underneath the railroad tracks, which the trucks would not be able to use because of a clearance problem. So the developer is then going to say, well, I don't really have any benefit of that at all, which would put probably 80% or more of the cost of that overpass, just the overpass, onto the residents of the town. Well, we're only spending $3 million now to repair some of the roads in the town. What do? Not do any roads, you know, for 3-4 years because of the cost of that bridge?
I think we should bring it to a vote.
I just, you know, I don't want to, I would love it to go through Crossum. I'm told that the EPA is probably not a snowball's chance that they're going, because they have access to Main Street, they will not let them fill in wetlands to get to Crossman, because there's Burke's Creek in there, it's wetlands. I don't want to take that thought out, because if it's possible, I'd love it, but I also don't want to take out the lights at Kimball Drive East and West, because that's a substantial savings to the town and the residents in time and traffic. And I don't believe any of the roads, currently any of the roads that dump out to on the Sayre Boulevard that is currently bypass road, that's currently, we do not allow cars to empty off the Bainhurst at all because the road is not completed, and we don't want that to be a problem area. Yet at the same time, when we had that fire, we were able to open it for the emergency and let some of the traffic go that way. So that's the way I would like Kimball Drive East and West to be. And I agree that it should be total completion of the road all the way down out to Chevrolet before we open any of those roadways all the way through. But I don't want to do away with those lights, because I've had people, I see it, I'm very nice. I see somebody waiting, I'll actually stop on Main Street and let them out, because I do have the benefit of the light to get out. But I know a long time they don't. I'm sorry, I'm done. Thank you.
I just, before we move forward with the rest, I think I would like to actually kind of ditto, if you will, some of the statements of Councilwoman Novak, because I do have concerns about eliminating any discussion within the redevelopment plan about the lights, for just those reasons, like you were stating. I know what it's like to pull out of there. I'm impacted by that every single day based on where I live. I'm right across from the senior center on the other side. I lived in Main Street Townhomes for many years before my husband and I bought slightly down the road from it, because I love that section of town. I do have concerns, and I think some of the residents here even came up and stated that. I've taken copious notes, 3-4 pages tonight, and I took the same last meeting. One woman, when she came up, I think she's over there somewhere, saying that she would actually look forward to having that light there to make it somewhat, a little bit easier to get out of that area. And then the discussion went into the conversation regarding the bypass, which again, while it is a part of this discussion, it isn't, because it isn't here yet. I'm grateful that the attorney put on record that part of the obstacle may have actually been the attorney for Main Street Townhomes himself by filing some of the objections, and I understand why he did that. I think we need to look more into that bypass road, and I agree. We shouldn't be opening up a bypass road onto any of the Kimball Drives if it doesn't continue all the way through and down. I agree with that statement, Mary, 110%. For the safety, security of the residents, the kids, that is a no-brainer to me, and I would fight on behalf of that 110%. As right now a commissioner on SERA, a voting body, one thing that anybody on that board will tell you, and the residents here that's been following these council meetings for the last 2 years, they know that Vicki Kilpatrick is by far not a friend of any developer. When it came to what was going on regarding COA, I went head-to-head with every single one of those developers. I thought that the people on SERA were going to throw me off because I refused to allow a project to move forward without getting redevelopment fees that the borough rightfully deserved and should have had for many years. I will fight tooth and nail on SERA regarding each and every one of the concerns that was brought up. And even Mr. Robinson would turn around and say, when it comes to fighting against a developer for things that don't make sense, there's no one more ferocious in that fight than myself. I'm looking over here because I want to make sure that I put on record, first of all, I think I should have started with this, that I'm grateful for every resident that's come up to speak over the last couple of meetings. This is what I have always said. This is what true government and what we should be doing for every single project whenever we have something here. I'm one person. I don't think of every single thing that you guys do. And I'm a language arts teacher. I'm not a professional. So hearing your voices of things that I had concerns over and more is necessary. I appreciate the attorney letting us know where we are with the judge's order. That is always a concern regarding if we are going to dig ourselves into a further hole when it comes to litigation that will be borne by all 45,000 residents. But I am slightly reassured in knowing that this isn't the end of this. We still have the ability to use our other boards, SERA and the planning board, as a joint entity of government fighting for what you want. And that's what we need to do here. So I wanted to add that as well. Mary, thanks for bringing up those extra points as well.
Are there any other comments?
Yes, Mayor, just lastly, 20-plus years ago, and correct me if I'm wrong, I was doing some research on it, that the owners of Fulton Landing wanted to put a golf course and senior housing on that property, and it was shot down. Then they came back and they wanted housing and warehousing. That was shot down and overturned by the judges. He's now coming back to us looking for 3 warehouses. He's coming to us looking to amend that agreement. I think if we turn this down, he's not going to want to go to court and get the judgment on those housing. He'd rather work with us on a better plan for what he wants over there. We're in a horrible situation, not because of anything this council did, but because of planning, court decisions. So none of us up here want to be making this decision right now. But I think if we can bring him back to the table, he's going to be willing, and we could put these things in that ordinance and make it a better ordinance. It's going to help our tax base getting businesses in there, and don't jump at me because I said that. But it's going to help our tax base because not bring kids into our schools. It's a rateable. It's going to bring taxes with less expenses. So that's what towns look for. That's what we look for. This area, I don't agree with the area that it's going in. However, he's coming to us, and I believe that if we say no to this ordinance, we'll bring him back, tighten it up, and get it better. He's not going to want to go forward with that lawsuit because that's not what he wants. He does not want the houses and the smaller warehouses. He wants the larger warehouses, and we can get a better product.
Anything else?
Councilman Buchanan, I hear you on that, and I want to be sure on that because I'm afraid I don't like gambling and saying he isn't going to do it. I'm looking at page 4 of the original plan here, and I'm reading where it says in 2013, the planning board granted preliminary major subdivision and preliminary major site plan approval to permit the construction of three office warehouse buildings totaling 610,000 plus square feet, which is approximately 1/3 of the area. So we know that's coming. That was already approved at the planning board level. We know that's coming. The 207 single-family homes on the other blocks, the application was just deemed not complete, but it's my understanding as soon as he completes or checks that box or does whatever the heck wasn't on there, those homes are going to be there. I would like to think, like you, Danny, that he really doesn't want to build those things and that he'll turn around and abandon that. But I'm nervous. I don't trust the developer. I never have. And I don't want to roll that dice. And the impact, and I know that some people here are going to try and argue and say that's not going to impact the school. I work there. I've been there my whole life. It's going to impact the school. We had a Board of Ed member come up here, Mr. John Walsh, who put that on record. And yeah, we fought like hell. I wish that we could have gotten our COA obligation and overall market rates reduced even more, but I wouldn't have spent 2 years of my life trying to reduce it if I didn't think that even one house, 2 houses would impact our school to the point where it's already bursting. 520 students right now are coming into the middle school from the 5th grade class alone right now. 520, that's how much one class is. I can't take that risk. 207 4-bedroom homes. If anyone in here thinks that that's not going to impact our school, it is. It's going to impact our schools beyond belief. It's going to impact our taxes beyond belief. Already pay attention to your Board of Education minutes and their budget, and you're going to see it. I'm not typically a gambling person, and I don't think I want to start now regarding it, although, Danny, I do hear you. I don't have a strong enough stomach to do that with 45,000 residences and their taxes, and
I just think that if he wouldn't have come up here if he didn't want this. I think that he would have just built those 207 houses once he deemed his application complete.
I know, it doesn't make sense, I hear you.
It doesn't make sense, and it will affect our schools if we have the 207 houses.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that at all. I just think that we could get a better plan from him.
I think we still have a chance of doing that if we use our agency and hold them accountable between Sarah and the planning board. I think we can. I still think we can.
Are there any other comments? No. What is the pleasure of the governing body?
Vote on the plan. We closed the public portion, now we need to vote. Need a motion?
So it's me then, right? 'Cause the plan, okay. So the public hearing's been closed. I move the public hearing be closed, the ordinance adopted and on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Second?
Roll call.
Councilpersons Delina?
Yes.
Buchanan?
I'm going to vote no for the reasons I explained.
Enriquez?
Yes.
Kilpatrick?
Yes.
McGill?
Yes.
Novak? Yes. Pass.
I'm going to call for a 5-minute recess.
Yep.
We have to have a reasons resolution immediately after this. Yeah, I'll
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm surprised.
Another one of those for me?
What's going on, Mr. McGill?
Hey, how are you?
Good. Behaving yourself or what? No, I'm glad to hear that.
I know, today I was great.
I know you were. You were quiet. You were.
Quiet, didn't say a word, never said, what the fuck are you looking at,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Do, 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 do.
First of all, that was me that. No, but that's at the end of I'll be honest with you, I mean, you know
Excuse me.
Tough situation we're in.
Use your conscience. You have a conscience and you believe in a higher authority. I have me. Respect you. He's a good man. He is. He is a good man. Thank you, Mr. Man. Huh? I'm all right. I'm better. I got over. You okay? You all right? You breathing heavy. We need to. Give me a few. I'm shrinking. I'm shrinking. Excuse me.
But Jay would know.
Kind of recognize him.
Larry, I'm gonna start the meeting pretty quick. No, go ahead, but take a couple minutes. Vicky, we're gonna start it up. Okay, I'm gonna call the meeting back to order. All in favor?
Mayor, if you might, there just has to be a resolution providing reasons for disapproving the recommendations of the Borough Planning Board regarding the Fulton Landing redevelopment plan pursuant to 48 12A-7. And I've made a few notes based on the last meeting as well as this meeting, and the reasons resolutions include the report.
Well, I thought Mr. Buchanan would have to give his reasons.
No.
Are you giving his reasons? Or?
No, what I'm saying is.
Resolution has to be.
This is for the affirmative vote,
This is
Mayor.
the affirmative vote, Mayor, not the negative.
Okay.
And so, based on the notes of the last meeting as well as this meeting, it's my, and correct me if I'm wrong, but few of the benefits associated with disapproving of the planning board's recommendation include accepting the NW report that was dated March 26, 2018, and that the type of development permitted in the redevelopment plan would have a positive fiscal impact on the borough, and would be more beneficial than a development consisting of mixed units as well as warehousing. In addition, that there is a belief that the overall traffic impact would be less than the originally proposed. In addition, that there was some, even this evening, that the removal of Lakeview Drive, there was a disagreement though, but some of it was that it protects the health and welfare and safety of those residents on Lakeview. I talked about the financial impact. I also talked to you about that this does settle the litigation, that you also, it indicated that it improves the tax base. Also, there was a worry regarding an increase in school kids and an increase in taxes. Together, you also mentioned that there was a belief that there was an economic and job increase. It's my understanding also that promotes the goals. I apologize for, I have my notes here. Sorry, this is, that it does also give us another opportunity to send it to different agencies to ensure that the traffic patterns along Main Street will not be adversely impacted. In addition, I told you that it does promote economic development based on the NW report. It also improves the utilization of land with an appropriate use that benefits the community. Someone had mentioned, and again, I might be repeating myself, I'm just trying to add all this, that it does improve our tax bases and it does encourage development, and I think Mr. Buchanan, you had mentioned it, uses modern, energy efficient, and environmentally sustainable building practices. And there's also some recommendation about the 150-foot buffer. And for all those reasons, I think I covered as much as I could, that this is, again, a resolution providing reasons for disapproving recommendations of the Borough Planning Board regarding the Fulton Landing redevelopment plan pursuant to NJSA 40A:12-7. Someone would make that motion to approve that resolution, I will have it at the next.
I make a motion, we approve that resolution.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilpersons Delina?
Yes.
Buchanan?
I don't believe I get a right to vote on that resolution because I voted against the resolution, or ordinance. You can vote no. I'll abstain then. Okay.
Enriquez?
Yes.
Kilpatrick?
Yes.
McGill?
Yes.
Novak?
Yes.
Next item, Terry.
Sorry, Mayor. Next item, we have the introduction of the following,
We do, Mayor, I had put in my application for, I would request that you appoint me to
community development.
Community Block Grant Development tonight, even though the 30 days aren't up, because they're having a meeting on June 27th. That way I could participate. My application is in, and this is.
As an accommodation, I'll appoint Mary Novak to fill the unexpired term of Rennie Trevisano to the CBDG.
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor.
Roll call.
Would you- Sometime would you let me know what his term is? I really.
Will do.
Thank you.
Councilpersons Buchanan?
Yes.
Delina?
Yes.
Enriquez?
Yes.
Kilpatrick? Yes. McGill?
Memory of Rennie, yes.
Novak?
Yes, thank you. In memory of one.
Introduction of following ordinance, ordinance number 459-19, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 7 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Sayreville to amend Section 7-4.1, trucks excluded from certain streets.
Councilwoman Kilpatrick.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law, and public hearing to be held on, July 22nd?
Yes.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilpersons Kilpatrick?
Yes.
Buchanan?
Yes.
Delina? Enriquez?
Yes.
McGill?
Yes.
Novak?
Officer, if you'd close that door out to the hallway, please, I'd appreciate it.
Introduction of bond ordinance number 460-19, bond ordinance amending ordinance number 398-18, finally adopted by the Borough Council, Borough of Sayreville County, Middlesex State of New Jersey on February 26, 2018, and entitled bond ordinance providing for various road improvements for the Borough of Sayreville, appropriating $3 million, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $2,850,000 bonds and notes of the borough for financing part of such appropriation. That would be to increase the total appropriation therein from $3 million to $3,575,000 due to a grant in the amount of $575,000 expected to be received by the New Jersey Department of Transportation.
Councilperson
McGill.
McGill.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law,
Second.
and a public hearing to be held on July 22nd, 2019.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilpersons McGill,
Yes.
Buchanan.
Yes.
Delina. Enriquez.
Yes.
Kilpatrick. Novak.
Yes.
Consent agenda resolutions, Mayor.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to open the public portion. For questions or comments on consent agenda items only. That's number 7 on your sheet. Are there any questions on what is listed here? There being no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move the public portion be closed and the consent agenda resolutions approved on roll call vote.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilpersons Buchanan.
Yes.
Delina.
Yes.
Enriquez.
Yes.
Kilpatrick. McGill.
Yes.
Novak.
Yes.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, Borough Engineers report.
No report, Mayor. These items are carryover from the last meeting, so no report.
Okay.
Through us for.
I'm going to open the public portion for questions or comments on any and all issues. Arthur?
Arthur Rittenhouse, 33 Delacat Lane, Sayreville, New Jersey. On the resolution that you just passed, or you're going to be passing at the next meeting, part of the things that Mr. Dupont said, that there was no impact on the traffic. Now, the Main Street Townhouse attorney gave you a report that showed there's an impact. You have the 2 secret reports that the public can't see, so we don't know. So how can that be a reason for turning that down when nobody knows if there's a traffic impact on that.
I believe what you stated was what CME's review of that traffic study was that there would be less traffic with the trucks than there would be with the homes. That's what it said.
And Art, I'm sorry, I was trying to grab someone before they left there.
Mary, we still have not seen that report.
But
We
it-
have not seen that report.
We have not seen the report, but we have seen, and it's in here,
That's
CME's
correct.
review
It's
of
in a
it.
public document that
That's
the
right.
public has, but yet the public can't see what's referenced in that report.
And if
I trust CME.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
If I could, Art, and we had a conversation last week. The reason for that was that, remember, these traffic study reports were requested by the judge. Pursuant to Judge Miller's orders, this was a confidential mediation. I explained that to you. I had hoped that they would consent to the waiver of the confidentiality. They could not. And based on that, their failure to waive it, you do remember, and you do know, and we talked about it, that they're going to have to do a comprehensive traffic study when they go to Sarah and when they go to Planning Board. And I know that your traffic study report that you just handed, or Mr. Griffin handed to us, this traffic study deals with the three major developments. I guess I lost mine. Predominantly Fulton Landing, River Road, National Lead. And so this traffic study report it's just not solely Fulton Landing. This deals with those three specific job sites and construction sites that have yet to be built.
That's correct. And we did speak about that, and you know that I disagreed with you.
Yeah, I know you did.
All right, the other thing I have is I know that we're waiting for all of this to go through to test the soil on that property. The town of Marlborough, when they realized that there was something wrong, and along with the Soil Conservation District, they asked CME and the Soil Conservation District to immediately check the soil, and they immediately stopped any activity. I would like the council to have our borough officials, who we have an ordinance for that, and under the Mining Act, which they used as the excuse of not being allowed on there, I want them to go on that property to find out what's going on and to find out now rather than to wait 3 months, 6 months. We don't know what that soil, and if it's contaminated, is leaking into Burks Creek or leaking underneath and coming into Main Street townhomes. So that is a concern, and there's no reason the borough cannot do that now, just as Marlborough Township did. If you need to, check with Marlborough and see what they did.
Yeah, Mr. Rittenhouse, I think maybe I'm wrong on this, but this was, it's my understanding when you're in reference to Marlborough, that had been approved by the planning board and subject to apparently notification. The borough officials sent a testing site in, but that was after, it's my understanding, based on my memory, that the application.
It was about the point of right now. You can read it in the state.
Yeah, but I thought, and maybe I'm wrong.
The SCI report came out June 19th.
Yeah,
You may read it in there. I'll send you a copy if you'd like.
Well, if you would, and I can
Yes, I
follow up
would.
with the planning board, because it's my understanding that the
Can I bill
planning
you
board
too
had
for my
approved it.
time?
Huh?
Mike, if I may,
Thanks, sir.
Art, just, I understand the mining issue. My concern at this point is what Art just said regarding it seeping into Birch Creek and possibly going into our residents' basements based on the flooding. So whatever's going in that dirt, whatever's in that dirt could possibly going there. So I would like to urge you to look into what Marlborough's doing, and if they are going in there, Jay, do you know if it's pre-planning board approval or not?
I'm not familiar with the Marlboro. I would have to find that out, but at this point, there's no approvals granted for any activity taking place on that terrible property.
There's no approvals except for what was just passed tonight.
That is just an ordinance that you adopted. There's no site plan or any other approvals in place for that.
But if we have a concern about something that's seeping into right-of-ways, wouldn't we have the right to get into that property to check it?
I think that's a question for your attorney.
We have an anti-dumping ordinance. I mean, this goes back 20 years to when Mr. Dish was going to dump a lot of dredge spoils behind Main Street townhomes. This is where I get a little confused. For Riverton to bring the dirt onto the property, there was very stringent testing that had to be performed on, I don't know whether it was every dump truck, but it was very stringent testing. And we're kind of giving this guy carte blanche to come in and dump whatever he likes. I would like the attorney to issue a cease and desist, and I would like the borough engineer to begin a testing process on this property to make sure that we're not going to be a new Superfund site.
Again, Mayor, if I would, I know that there had been requested, and I don't recall if in fact the soil conservation reports have been filed. And what I would do, Mayor, is if you would allow me to contact Mr. Lair tomorrow regarding this.
Until this matter is resolved, I would like a cease and desist to go out, and I would like the preliminary work to be done and an estimate from CME be given to us to determine what the cost would be to test the soil, because there was an awful lot of dumping that has been going on there. And we have a moral obligation to our residents to make sure that they're safe from any kind of contamination.
You know, Mayor, if I might, I know that there is a jurisdictional issue regarding whether the borough has that right or whether.
Let them sue us, Mike. I want the cease and desist letter to go out.
Mayor, can I just add one thing? Mike mentioned about Mr. Lair. We did get reports. What they do is the trucks, they check. What they're supposed to do is Freehold Soil gives them a list of trucking companies that they may or may not use. And then they test at the site, which I mentioned at the last meeting. In 2014, they did 2 tests. In 2015...
When you say 2 tests, is that 2 trucks?
Testing, right. 2 times they tested one area of soil that they're bringing in. One of the areas was Raritan Center, which bothers me, but 2015, they did no reports. 2016, they did 3. 2017, they did 5 reports. 2018, none, and 1 this year. So that's the developer. That's not anybody else. Freehold Soil does not test for contaminants. New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, which expired March 1st of 2018, they also do not test the soil. The Department of Labor and Workforce Development, which is now in charge of the mining, emphatically yelled at me and told me they do not test the soil, they just issue a permit. So no government agency tests the soil. And the SCI just issued a report that said what's been happening is a lot of the sites, which are very similar to what Fulton's Landing is, organized crime's involved, and they've been finding they're dumping illegal soil on these sites. That's my concern.
I'll follow up with Mr. Lair.
No, is there an objection to a cease and desist letter going out? Is there an objection?
Jay, I have a question. Birch Creek.
No. Send a cease and desist letter out.
I don't-
We find out what has been done. Let them come back to us and cite statute why our cease and desist letter is no good.
Jay, I have a question for you as an engineer.
I can guarantee you the people living across the street from where they're dumping would rather have us go ahead and issue a cease and desist than to, find out how many angels are on the head of a pin, which is a normal legal debate.
Jay, if I may, I have a question for you. Birch Creek, is that totally contained on that property? Or does it have any access on the borough right away?
It's actually on this property as well as a portion that's on the adjacent property, which is the property that's adjacent to Crossman Road South. So it crosses both of those properties.
Is there any portion of it that's on borough right away?
It crosses underneath Main Street, which is a county road. So
My question is, if we can't go on the property to do the soil, let's check the water and see what's in the water that's coming from there, that's seeping into that water. and that might get us onto that property.
County owns the property next to it.
Just, I mean, he came up and testified at the last council meeting that it meets warehouse standards, commercial
Yeah,
standards.
but what's our law? This is just not the right way to do it. So I really would like the governing body to reconsider and send out a letter that we don't even have to say cease and desist until we can make a determination. We're asking that no more dumping be performed on this site till we have tested
Can we
what
ask
you
them to
have
just not
dumped.
dump instead of ceasing and desisting? Can we just
I beg your pardon?
Can we just ask them to stop dumping
No,
in the
no,
interim?
we can
instead of
ask
ceasing
them
and
stop dumping until we have a chance to put in a protocol for testing the product
But
that's coming in.
How long will that take, though?
I'm going to say something to you, Kevin. I've been easy on you because I was a big fan of your grandfather's. But for a guy that's lived here 3 years, you make a lot of goddamn decisions for people that have lived here their whole life.
I'm not making
All
any,
right?
Mayor.
So that being, stop it.
No, you stop.
So that being said.
I'm asking questions. I'm sorry, I've been here for 6 months and I'm asking questions.
But
I
what
still
I'm
have a
saying
learning
to you
curve.
is, you better start getting on the side of the residents.
I am on the side of the residents.
And not a political career.
Mayor, I am on this, my political career, I'm a councilman right now. Do you think I'm looking forward to the future? No, I'm living
telling
in
you,
Cedarville
Kevin,
right now.
I'm telling you, out of respect for your grandfather, a lot of us have just let you find your way, but you're not.
And I'm still finding my way, which is
not
why I'm
finding the
asking
right way,
questions,
brother.
Mayor.
Okay, so
I'm not
let's
trying to
move
get under your
forward.
skin, Mayor. I'm trying to ask questions so I
It's
understand what's going on.
absolutely getting under my skin. So let's move forward because we're talking about the safe and health of our
Kevin, go ahead and ask your
residents,
question.
which is a critical and crucial issue.
No, go ahead, ask your question.
I don't even know what my question was because I'm so thrown off by that, which I think was totally unnecessary.
No, I think it was timely.
No, I don't think it was timely. I think it was unnecessary.
Well, we agree to differ.
Exactly.
All right.
I can call point of order again.
You can call whatever you like, Mary.
We have an ordinance that says we are not allowed to make comments like that, but you constantly do it.
I do, Mary. Guilty as charged. Young lady, would you like to say something?
Do I have to give my name?
I need you to state your name and your street there.
My name is Deborah Lynch, and I live on 145 Pulaski Avenue.
Okay.
And my question is, on
Well,
May
let her speak.
On May 18th, we received a notice from CME that all of our driveways, the removal and replacement of the existing curbs, sidewalks, handicap ramps, and driveway aprons would be replaced.
Right?
It doesn't say this one, that one, this one's going to get replaced.
Right.
It said replaced.
Right.
On our street, our lower end of Pulaski, it looks like a checkerboard. Front of my house, one block was replaced, one block in the middle wasn't.
Let me find out.
The
Jay,
whole
do you
end
know
of
the
the street.
protocol down there?
You go up our street, it's all brand-new sidewalks, and there was no difference in the quality of the sidewalks prior to all the
Okay,
removals.
let me find out. Jay, do you know the answer to this?
The policy of the borough is not to remove sidewalk for aesthetic reasons. There need to be structural problems, whether it's a crack, whether it's a tripping hazard. That's the policy for removing sidewalk. I think the resident in question had sidewalk replaced by the gas company more recently than a lot of other residents that have the original sidewalk in the development. Her property did not have any of the criteria I just mentioned as far as raised sidewalk where it was tripping hazards or cracks that warranted to be replaced. I think the concern is that aesthetically, it's a different shade from the other sidewalk that's being installed.
Well, I don't ever remember my sidewalk being replaced.
What
in
is your
30
what is
years.
your street address, son?
145 Pulaski. It's not just my street,
No, no,
my
I-
address. It's the whole bottom half of our street. If you go up our street, which I walk all the time, all the way up, there was no
Okay.
cracks, there was no damage. There's still cracks in the sidewalks that haven't been replaced.
Ma'am, we're going to go out and take a look at it tomorrow.
It looks terrible aesthetically.
Okay, we're going to take a look
Thank
at
you.
it
I'd
tomorrow.
appreciate it.
So what you're going to need to do is Terry's going to turn around and you quietly give her your phone number.
Is there also an update on the finishing of this project?
Jay?
Because I've called the office, a neighbor of mine called the office yesterday because we got notice 3 weeks ago that sod was coming. Neighbor called yesterday, she got told August. I called today and I got told it's being delivered today. I can't get a straight answer.
The issue has been with cutting sod with all the rain that we've had. The sod farms aren't cutting sod because the ground is so wet and the sod is so wet. As soon as the contractor can get the sod, he's told us he's hoping to get it within the next week or so. So as soon as he can get it, he's going to go through and install it.
Okay,
As
so
far as
we're
the
going to get it, not in August, we're getting it now.
Correct, yes. As soon as he can get it cut, he's going to install it. As far as the status of the project, the contractor is finishing the concrete. He's working his way back toward Deerfield Road. As soon as that's done, he's going to be doing the milling work. He's going to repair any sections of curb and sidewalk that are cracked. And
Yeah,
then he's going to go
because they're cracking
through.
already.
Well, if it's cracked, a lot of times the contractor causes problems with the sidewalk. He's gone through and sidewalk that was supposed to remain, he's cracked, and he's got to go through and remove and replace that at his cost. So those are things that we have to go through and deal with, but his intention is to try to have everything done by 4th of July. That's a very aggressive schedule as far as getting the milling and paving done, especially with the rainy weather that we had. But that's his game plan, is to try to have it milled later this week and put the top course of pavement down next week.
But can they do that, Jay, without the corrections being done on our curbs and whatnot, if it's not repaired by then?
Well, I think what's going to happen is he's going to go through and finish the curbing. He's going to mill if there's sections that are broken. I know one resident in particular had a problem with her driveway apron where originally it was a certain width and he put it back a different width. That's got to be removed and replaced. So things like that, he's going to get fixed before he puts the final pavement down.
Okay.
All right, Terry, if you would get this young lady's.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other questions or comments?
Mayor, I move the public portion be closed.
Is there a roll call?
Buchanan?
Yes.
Delino?
Yes.
Enriquez?
Yes.
Kilpatrick? Yes. McGill?
Yes.
Novak?
Yes.
Before we adjourn, I just want to make a comment. I'm not in agreement with how some people voted, but that's not personal. Mayor, I don't think it was appropriate to get personal. I think that could have been a conversation you had after the meeting with Kevin, or bringing up his grandfather at this point in time. I don't think that was appropriate. We do have a concern. We all have a concern about the quality of the soil that's there. It's how we go about getting that checked. That's what we need to do. I believe that we need to find a way to check it. Eventually, according to Jay, we're going to have that opportunity. I would like to see it done sooner rather than later, so maybe we can have our attorneys reach out to their attorneys and see how we can get on that property. But we need a sense of decorum here. We need to understand that it's not personal. None of us wanted to vote on this ordinance tonight, but we had to vote on it. So I respect Kevin and his vote and how he voted on it. I may not agree with it, but that's part of being in government.
Mayor, I just want you to know as well, I'm educated enough, I'm smart enough to form my own opinion, and the way I learned is to ask questions, and I'm sorry if it gets under your skin, but that's how I learn. And I've been doing this 6 months, and it's, you grow as you don't know everything, and I'm not trying to know everything, and I'm not trying to get under anyone's skin. That's how I learn. And if the public wanted someone to sit up here and not learn and not ask questions, then they would have elected someone like Damon and myself. So that's how I learn, and if I get under your skin for that, then I'm sorry. That's just how I learn. I ask questions and I formulate my opinion based off the facts.
Okay, we're going to go to the
I need a
agenda
motion
meeting.
to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I got a motion by Councilman Buchanan and second by Councilwoman Novak.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're going to do a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Born and unborn.
Okay, Terry, statement of publication.
Yes, Mayor, take notice that this agenda session of the Mayor and Borough Council being held on this 24th day of June 2019 has been advertised and posted in accordance with Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975.
Roll call.
Councilpersons Buchanan.
Here.
Lena.
Here.
Enriquez.
Here.
Kilpatrick. Here. McGill.
Here.
Novak.
Here.
Okay, any questions, call out. Ordinance 458-19, 459-19, 460-19. Under Committee Reports, Administration and Finance, Councilman McGill.
Thank you, Mayor. Minutes and departmental reports. Move the following minutes and reports be received and filed. Number one, Municipal Clerk's Monthly Report for the month of May 2019. Number two, CFO's Investment Activity Report for the month of May 20th. To receive and file. B, applications for bingo raffle licenses received from the following organizations. Sayable Touchdown Club to conduct an off-premises draw on August 26, 2019, off-premise draw on December 8th, 2019, and an on-premise 50/50 on September 6th and 20th, October 4th and 11th, 2019, on high school property.
Any objections? Anything else, Councilman?
Progress, Mayor.
Thank you. Planning and Zoning, Councilman Delina.
Minutes, departmental reports. Move the following minutes reports be received. Numbers 1 through 3, receive and file.
Second.
B, notice adjacent municipality property owner number 1, receive and file for Old Bridge Township.
Second.
C, application for temporary trailer license received from the Whiting Turner contract, approve and or deny. No problems?
Any objections for
Any
approval?
objections?
Progress.
Anything else, Councilman?
Progress.
Thank you. Public Works, Councilwoman Novak.
Yes, Mayor. I move that the departmental minutes reports under A, 1 and 2 be received and filed. I'm requesting that if all the paperwork's in order, that the portable stage be allowed to be used by the police department for their National Night Out.
Any objections? Next item.
Mayor, other than that progress, I just have a few comments I wrote down. There was a comment made about Mr. Mako being at a fundraiser. I do remember meeting Mr. Mako once in my life. I've been a councilwoman for 15 years, and that was the only time I met the man. I did check, however, and he did not contribute to our campaign in any way to the Democratic Party. Also, Kennedy, I was around your first year as a councilman, and you had a real learning curve also. I remember we were told that our water treatment plant was not capable of treating the groundwater. Mayor McCormick did a tremendous thing and get us involved in Dehernal, but our water treatment plant was not adequate for treating that water. And we were ordered to build this, and Wayne Kronowski was here and got us some no-interest loans for $16 million to do it, and you voted against that. That was a learning curve. Nobody made comments about you. And when we were trying to institute the automated garbage trucks throughout the entire borough, you voted no on that also. And that would have been to a big detriment of the town. Two things that would have been big detriment to the town, and nobody once questioned why you took those votes. And I really wish that you would show the same respect for the other members on this council. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Recreation, Councilman Enriquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Move the following minutes reports be received and filed. Recreation Director's report for the month of May 2019.
Second.
Application for a special event received from the following: Sayville Police Department to conduct a National Night Out on August 6, 2019 at Kennedy Park and waiving the required fees and bonds associated with the use of Kennedy Park.
Any objection?
No problem.
Anything else, Councilman?
Just one thing, I just want to remind the town of our Independence Day celebration at Kennedy Park on June 29th. The rain date is June 30th. It's beginning at 4 p.m. We have free rides from 4 to 8, live musical entertainment from 7 to 9:30 by a Bon Jovi tribute band, and the fireworks start at 9:30. That's it.
All right. Water and Sewer, Councilwoman Kilpatrick.
Thank you, Mayor. Minutes and departmental reports. The Water and Sewer report for the month of May 2019 to receive and file. Thank you. Actually one thing. I just wanted to say congratulations to the Saraville War Memorial High School class of 2019. They were lucky enough to escape the rain and had their graduation outside. Unfortunately, our 8th grade students were not that lucky, and they had to endure some of the heat within the gym. However, I wish them also the best of luck as they move into the high school. And I hope all students, if they choose to watch, and parents, a happy and safe summer and Look forward to seeing you in September with that progress, Mayor.
Thank you. Public Safety, Council President Buchanan.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the following minutes and reports be received and filed. The Court Administrator's report for the month of May 2019, the Police Department report for the months of April and May 2019, the Board of Health and Registrar's report for the month of May 2019.
Second.
Second.
Next item.
Letter B, application for membership as a firefighter received from Matthew Coyle and Nikita Mamontov. I'd like to have those approved.
Is there any objection? Anything else, Council President?
I just want to follow up with Vicky, what Vicky said, and congratulate the class of 2019. I did have the honor of speaking before the class, and it was great to go back to the high school that you graduated from, and see the kids, how different they are now. I guess I'm the one who's different 26 years later. They're still the same age. But yeah, it was a great night, very well organized. It was a conjunction of our police department as well as the school's security department. And it was run very well, and I want to thank Dr. Labby and Mr. Salem for the invitation and a great job on putting that event together, and that's all I have, so progress.
Okay, Business Administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Appointing Nicole Oranowitz as keyboarding clerk 2 in the Borough Clerk's office effective August 1st, 2019. Authorizing execution of an agreement with the County of Middlesex for the acceptance of fiscal year 2020 Municipal Alliance grant in the amount of $42,655. Authorization to amend ordinance 435-19 to include stipend for Assistant to Director of IT Services of $1,500 a year effective August 1st, 2019. Authorization to extend the grace period for the third quarter property taxes for 2019.
Next item.
Authorization to purchase 2 2019 Dodge Durango trucks from Buyer Ford through the ESCNJ contract 17/18-21 in an amount not to exceed $51,131.06.
Next item.
This one for public safety, recommendation for a dedicated handicap parking space received from Sergeant Braille for 53 Smollen Street. I spoke to Councilwoman Novak. I tried to reach Sergeant Braille today. He's off today.
Okay.
So we're waiting for an updated report, so we put it on here, but I guess we have to move this to the next meeting? Okay.
Next item.
Authorization to award a contract to Video Corporation of America to New Jersey State Contract T1466/AA1124 for the furnishing and installation of video conferencing equipment at the Public Safety Complex in an amount not to exceed $21,081. Authorization to renew contract for software and maintenance with Q's Enforth Development through New Jersey State Contract T0109/AA3889 in an amount not to exceed $26,556. Authorization to execute a 3-year contract between the Borough of Sayreville and PBA Local 98 effective January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2020, patrolman only.
Next item.
Authorization to award a contract to Schaefer Systems International, Inc. through New Jersey, PA, Sourcewell Contract 04-1217-SFR for the provision of automated refuse containers in an amount not to exceed $53,236.44.
Next item.
Authorization to purchase 2 Peterbilt 348 dump trucks from Hunter Jersey Peterbilt through NJPA Sourcewell Contract. Should be 081716-PMC in an amount not to exceed $272,400. Authorization to purchase 1 Peterbilt 520 side-loading automated refuse truck from Hunter Jersey Peterbilt through NJPA Sourcewell Contract 081716-PMC in an amount not to exceed $287,931.69. Authorization to amend ordinance 437-19 to include a stipend for water treatment license for DEP compliance, $5,000 annually effective August 1st, 2019.
Anything else?
That is it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. CFO's report.
I just wanted to ask Dan a question. I'm assuming that this is, all the contracts are officially done now with the unions?
No. We have, after patrolmen, we also have sergeants, lieutenants, and captains.
Okay, well, when all the contracts are settled, I assume, and I asked for an entire copy of the contract.
Right.
So, as soon as you can.
Okay.
At least if Ashley and Samson go, we can get copies of those.
Okay.
I know we just go work.
Okay.
CFO's report?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Borough Engineers report?
Thank you, Mayor. First item is the MacArthur Avenue project. We received bids. We'd like to have a resolution awarding the contract at your next meeting, subject to the adoption of the bond ordinance that you have listed on your agenda this evening. Algar Avenue, we already took action on. Item 3, the 2018 road program, which was 10 partial roads, that's been completed. We're recommending a closeout change order as well as final payment. We need a resolution at the next meeting. That's going to be a net decrease. Next item, 2017 Phase 1. This is the project that we had some issues with public service. So we're going to go through and close out the contract, but there's going to be a change order increase to compensate for delays that the contractor experiences because of problems with public service. And the last two items, Duharnell Wellfield and the 2018 Roads Phase 3, we're receiving bids July 9th and July 16th. So if everything's in order, we'd like resolutions awarding those contracts at your next meeting.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Borough Attorney's report?
Yeah, Mayor,
I think that's a question for your attorney. We provided the backup information from the contractor as far as his extra charges, so I would defer to Mr. Dupont whether that's feasible.
I think Mr. Cornell and I discussed it, and I believe that there is going to be a letter to PSE&G demanding those extra itemization.
Next, Borough Attorney's report?
Yeah, Mayor, I've been advised on Thursday by our COA council that we need to approve the Affordable Housing Development Agreement by July 15th. I know that people aren't going to like it, but could we have a special meeting on July 8th just for the simple adoption of this affordable housing development so I can be in compliance by July 15th?
What is the pleasure of the council?
Actually, I have a question, and maybe it'll help. We have a meeting the 9th regarding the RFPs. Maybe we can do a joint meeting afterwards regarding the RFPs that are coming in regarding first aid? Would it be a combined meeting? No, the public, we're meeting, Mary and I are meeting with the public safety, but it might be something that the full council might want to look at and discuss at the same time.
My meeting's only going to be 5 or 10 minutes just for the housing development agreement, so it's up to you guys.
Pick a date.
I'd 9th.
I can't.
What's that date,
The 9th? Yeah, the RFPs are coming on the 8th.
That's Tuesday.
Right. That meeting we're having with the first aid is at 6.
6 p.m., 6 o'clock, on the 9th.
So if we could do 7, right after, so we can discuss what, I'm sorry, I don't have my mic on. If we can meet 7 o'clock afterwards.
Why don't we take care of that right before you have your committee meeting?
We're meeting at 6. I don't care. If we want to meet before it, that's fine.
Why don't we just schedule the meeting for 6 PM, and we'll have this discussion on what Michael needs to take care of, and you have the vote on that, and then you can go right into your committee meeting,
My question, maybe it's for you.
unless you want the whole entire council in on it.
It's something that we can discuss with the RFP as well. Is it something that we could add on the agenda for that meeting?
Sure.
You can do that, but again, my portion will only be.
Sure, understood. But if we had to advertise it for your RFP as well.
If you advertise it and do all the notice that you're going to have a council meeting for.
Because the bids come in on the 8th, this way we can discuss them on the 9th and maybe have something prepared for the July 22nd meeting rather than having it held over until August.
Dan, if they're coming in on the 8th. If they're coming in on the 8th, you're not going to have much time to, you may not have time to review them. You may want a working meeting with the
Committee first,
committee. I don't know.
to go
That's up to
through
you.
it with fine tooth comb.
I was just throwing it out there because I know it's a topic that all of us are interested in.
Yeah, I see what Terry's saying now. That would give us less than 24
Okay,
hours to
that's
review.
fine.
I mean,
So do you guys
again, I
want
don't know
to,
how extensive.
you guys want to have the meeting though, just for this affordable housing development agreement on the 8th or the 9th?
No, let's do the 9th then. I'm going to say the 9th.
6
What
PM?
time? What time?
6 PM, and then it's only going to be 10 minutes, so we'll do the first aid meeting right after that. It'll be 6:10 PM.
That's it, Mayor.
Okay, anything for executive? No, sir. All right, at this time, I'm going to open the public portion for questions or comments. Any questions or comments? Being no questions or comments, entertain a motion to close the public portion. So moved. All in favor? Aye. Take a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
I'll buy you, I'll bring you 1 quart container.
Well, Jay, as always, it's good seeing you.
Night.
No, it wasn't.
Mr. Novak?
I think people think I'm with you. Are you there for Sarah Thursday night? Sarah?
As far as I know, he usually asks me last minute.
Oh,
Yeah,
If I don't see you, you'll be missed.
we do have problems. Yeah. Have a seat. So listen. I get it, and I want you to believe me when I tell you. I don't understand. Oh, sorry. You're here for the people. You vote for the people. Started the latest one, the first thing ever.
And doing an intervention tomorrow.